of our joint participation and involvement in common activities. PRIMA is indeed very active in our network of 42 states, 42 member countries. And we also regularly attend PRIMA meetings and involve PRIMA in our activities and networks, as I said. Last year has been a very special year, not for good reasons in general. I'm talking about the pandemic. The COVID-19 has accelerated or completely altered the course of different mechanics happening in our world and in our region, in the Mediterranean. In the span of a few months, COVID-19 has pushed us into an unprecedented crisis. The OECD estimates that for each month of confinement, there will be a loss, or there has been a loss of nearly 2% in annual GDP growth, and the economic impact alone is now expected to be worse than the one that we suffered during the 2008 economic recession. The pandemic has reconfirmed that the systems on which we depend are not only increasingly interdependent, but also growingly vulnerable, and we have to react for that. Sectors such as water, food, energy, and ecosystems are intertwined and essential for human well-being, poverty reduction, and sustainable development, including by addressing climate change impact. We need to support these sectors by working through a nexus of institutional, economic, and social frameworks. This time for rethinking what we define as development or growth and sustainability of the current models has come just after the 25th anniversary of the Barcelona Declaration, which opened, we created the Euro-Mediterranean process, a process in which we fully inscribe the spirit that brought together the PRIMA initiative and the Union for the Mediterranean. Despite the challenges, we have to recognize that significant progress has been achieved. For instance, through the achievement of the 2017 Valletta Declaration on strengthening a Euro-Mediterranean cooperation through research and innovation. And of course, the establishment of PRIMA as a pillar of Mediterranean cooperation. In terms of content, it is extremely relevant to mention the direct link with the Union for the Mediterranean Ministerial on Water, the Union for the Mediterranean Ministerial on Environment and Climate Change, and the just approved Union for the Mediterranean Ministerial Declaration on Blue Economy in the meeting that we celebrated last 2nd February. A couple of months ago, during a regional forum with our co-presidency and ministerial representative from our 42 member state, which had also the relevant presence of the King of Spain and the Prime Minister of Spain as host country. The 42 member states of the Union for the Mediterranean have reiterated their support for strengthening our economies, making them more green and digital, And we have to use this opportunity for thinking about new innovative solutions for the Euro-Mediterranean region. We have recently established, as I put as just an example, we have recently established a framework for a new interinstitutional platform on sustainable food systems, anchored in the Mediterranean diet with FAO and CHEM. And we are including PRIMA as one of our main stakeholders since day one. I have to add that here at the Union for the Mediterranean, we are putting a lot of energy in this joint initiative with FAO and CHEM, and we welcome a lot this involvement of PRIMA in this initiative. On the occasion of the Union for the Mediterranean Environment Task Force, PRIMA has directly confirmed its participation in the Union for the Mediterranean Greener Med agenda, which is a sort of SDGs for the Mediterranean, or 2030 agenda for the Mediterranean, sponsored by the Union for the Mediterranean, and that we call Greener Mediterranean Greener Med agenda, and its implementation plan with relevant PRIMA projects supporting the green circular economy access as well as ecosystem conservation. And just to conclude, I also had to remind that PRIMA is a direct partner in the UFM water group. Now we are advancing in 2021. I think there are many fields where we will keep on working together on environment, on water, climate change, on food system, for sure. But also, more importantly, on the achievement of the SDGs, on research and innovation, and on the employability of our researchers. In a region significantly and very badly impacted by COVID-19, we will need for the recovery to have strong partnerships with all our Mediterranean, with all the Mediterranean stakeholders. And for this, we need PRIMA in order to support the sustainability agenda in the Mediterranean, with its focus on agri-food, water and environment, and climate change. Thank you very much. Octavi, I pass you back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isidro, for your words. And now let me give the floor to the chair of the Board of Trustees of PRIMA, Angelo Riccaboni. Angelo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Octavi. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to Isidro Gonzalez, Deputy Secretary General of Union for the Mediterranean, all the panelists and hosts and participants to this event. We have almost 900 participants, which is really a great number. So 3 points. First, I would like to thank UFM for hosting this event. We are very pleased to cooperate with UFM. UFM for us is a key stakeholder. Our address is the headquarters of UFM. We are hosted by them as PRIMA Foundation. So thanks a lot for what we are doing. As Isidro was saying, partnership is fundamental to implement Agenda 2030. So to partner with UFM for us is strategic. And as Isidro said, we are working together on several issues, and we are very pleased to go on in this direction. Second point, last year was very complex, as everybody knows, and we learned how important it is to have a holistic approach to food systems. And we need to see food systems in their complexity and their parts. And as a matter of fact, this year is a very important year because we will have the Food System Summit, which will be held in September in New York, and in Rome at the end of July will be held a very important pre-event. And the discussion, the conversation about this major, very relevant event, the Food System Summit, is highlighting the role of innovation. So PRIMA is at the forefront of innovation, is at the forefront of scientific diplomacy on food systems. So we are doing the right thing at the right time. And we will try harder in order to make everybody be concerned about the relevance of resilient food systems. Third and last point, some numbers. In 3 years, we have funded projects for 165 million euros. We funded 129 projects. But even more important, we have 1,183 entities working together according to the same strategic research innovation agenda. So this is impressive that there are 1,183 units around the Mediterranean. This is a key signal in terms of scientific diplomacy, in terms of working together in order to have a more resilient, more prosperous, more sustainable Mediterranean. So let me end saying that this can be done only because we have the support of 19 countries, the support of the European Commission, but also because we work hard according to the principle of equal footing. Equal footing is our key principle, is the strategic line according to which everything is done within PRIMA, and we are very, very pleased that researchers from both rims of the Mediterranean are working closely in order to make our project successful. Let me end thanking the Secretariat and Octavi in particular, because it was very difficult to implement PRIMA in the last year, but the Secretary and all the staff was very successful in doing that, even if the time was very, very hard. So thanks a lot, and good luck to all the researchers who will be applying to our course. Thank you very much. Octavi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Angelo, for your words, for your kind words. And let me invite now the co-chair of the Board of Trustees of PRIMA, Mohammed El-Shinawi. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Octavi, and I hope that you hear me well. First of all, I would like to thank UFM for hosting this event, always our great partners and deep partners that we are always working together. And I would like to thank you, Octavi, of course, my very dear friend, the chair of PRIMA, Angelo Riccoboni, for his work. And I would like to welcome all the professors, researchers, and representatives from the universities and scientific centers all over the Mediterranean and all over the globe. It's a great pleasure for me to join you in this occasion to reiterate PRIMA's appreciation for the continuous support from all our partners. In this context, I would like to assure the cooperation that had been always very close within the Mediterranean countries for many years as partners in the areas of education, science, and research. And the pillars for the success of this long-standing scientific cooperation are mutual respect, common goals and values, and the ramification were immense. And you all heard what just Professor Riccoboni has mentioned about that we are having more than 1,200 institutes all over the Mediterranean working together within the 3 years that PRIMA has been launched. A hindsight look to the past decade gives us a very good reason for high satisfaction, hence inspiring further ambition for an even higher standard of scientific cooperation within the Mediterranean region. We believe in PRIMA that supporting research and innovation is a main pillar for the sustainable development strategy in our region, which represents a fundamental step in the region's extensive development. It established a development march towards an advanced and prosperous nations dominated by economic and social justice. And PRIMA is the main successful flagship within our region. We believe that the key factor in the rise of any nation as a technological power is the long tradition of close ties and frequent cooperation between researchers, a network of first-rate universities and industry. And I think that PRIMA has established that in the last 3 years. Finally, I would like to emphasize that we are certain that we are looking forward to a long, fruitful cooperation with the scientific research community in the Mediterranean, working together in a spirit of scientific unity for the common interests of our people and to create a solid foundation for establishing avenues for international scientific cooperation. I'm totally confident that as long as we collaborate together, we'll be able to overcome any challenge and reach our goals and even exceed our expectation. I hope next time that the COVID is over and we will be meeting all together in person. And before I end, I would like to thank the UFM and the PRIMA Secretariat for organizing this important Infoday. Thank you so much. And back to you, Octavi.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you to all the speakers who intervened for this introduction. And now let's turn to the sessions, the actual sessions. Let me remind you that we will be working from now until 1:30. There will be several presentations coming from basically our staff, the staff of PRIMA, to whom I thank from now, and you will see that the good quality of their presentations. There will be two main sessions with a short break of 15 minutes. The first session, which will deal with the actual work plan of 2021. The second is more on tricks and guides for submitting proposals. The two sessions will be followed by a session on questions and answers. But and this is very important, the main question, or we expect that since you are very many attending today, we'd like to invite you to write your questions on the QA box that you all have, not in the chat, in the QA box. During the next session, which will start right now, please only ask questions relevant to the content of the presentations, that is the PRIMA annual work plan and the core priorities, so the topics. During session 3, where the information will be given on proposal submission and evaluation on the administrative and financial rules, as well on how to prepare your proposal, you may ask questions on those issues, but please do not mix the questions, otherwise it will be very difficult for us to manage them. To avoid repetition of questions, please, when you are about to ask a question, see whether this question already exists, and in case it exists or a very similar one to it, please click on the like, and this question will be more relevant for us with the questions with more likes, and they will have a priority for their answer. So when you want to make a question on a presentation, wait until the end of the presentation, because maybe your question is answered inside the presentation itself, and you don't need this clarification. And then, as I said, after both section 2 and section 3, there will be 15 minutes for open questions that will respond not on writing, but orally. You obviously will have access to all the questions which has been answered, and you will see them appropriately. And for those questions that we're not able to answer, if there are too many and the time runs out, we'll produce in the next couple of days Q&A questions, FQAs, so the more frequent questions and answers, that which will be displayed in our website. So you can look at that in the next couple of days, and you will see the FAQ section, in which we'll try to respond to as many questions as possible. Without any more preamble, I'd like to give the floor to our project coordinator, Antonella Autino, who will discuss on core priorities and the novelties as when it comes to this year's program as to the previous year's programs. Antonella, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Octavi. I wish also good morning to all of you. I would also like to welcome you and to thank you for your enthusiastic participation to this important event for PRIMA, the PRIMA Infoday for the calls 2021. And in this presentation, I will give you an overview of how the annual plan will look like. The next, please. I will introduce you the structure of the program and provide you some highlights on the main priority that are laid out in this annual plan, and as well the novelties that have been introduced this year. I will go over the type of action, the budget, the topics that we have, but at the highest level of details. Details on the topics will be further provided by the project officer during my next presentation to mine. And I will also try to provide you some indication on the timing that will entail for this call. Next, please. As you have already seen from our website, the annual plan has not been approved yet by the European Commission. And for this reason, I would like to give you a quick glance on the call process leading to the launch of the call in order to make you better understand at which point we are. The PRIMA program is implemented through a strategic research and innovation agenda, which is defined through a participatory approach by the 19 PRIMA participating states. And each year, based on the advice of the Scientific Advisory Committee, the SRIA priorities are translated into annual plan and then into calls upon the approval of the European Commission and the PRIMA governing bodies. And we are at this stage waiting for this approval. In this way, the calls for proposal then will be launched in our website, and the submission of the proposal will be done through the INR submission portal. And our colleague Fabrice de Tressangle will provide us with some details on the process later on during the morning. Next one, please. The PRIMA Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda is developed around three main themes: the management of water, farming system, agro-food value chain, and the cross-cutting theme across those three. The next, please. As for the funding and the rules of participation, the program is structured around three pillars: Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3. I will not focus on Section 3 since it is not implemented directly by PRIMA. I will focus on Section 1 and Section 2. That is to say, Section 1 is about actions following transnational calls for proposal that are implemented by PRIMA with EU funds with H2020 rules. Whereas Section 2 are activities following transnational calls for proposal that are implemented by PRIMA with national funds through national funding agency rules. So we recommend you, when you are submitting a proposal for Section 2, to check out in our website the national regulation in order to know them in advance. Next, please. This is the fourth call out of the 7 calls that are foreseen for the PRIMA program. And again, this annual plan has a strong focus on innovation with 3 innovation actions. Take in mind that innovation may be a technological developed with also a frugal innovation perspective, that is to say, to create more value from less resources, but innovation can also be organizational, social. And again, for this annual plan, we propose in many topics multi-actor approach. That is to say, this approach that means the involvement of many stakeholders, in particular end users, in all the stages of the life cycles of the project, from the planning to the implementation to the dissemination of the result. Next, please. The type of action that we'll find in this call. For Section 1, you will find research and innovation actions, innovation action, and here the novelty for the annual plan 2021, prizes, which are another type of action under Section 1 following H2020 rules. What we intend with research and innovation action, they refer to what is also referred to the general annex of H2020, but in particular to those applied research, technology development, testing, and validation are small or large scale prototypes with a TRL from 3 to 5 with a funding rate 100%. Whereas innovation action are action that are more near to the market with a TRL from 6 to 7 and a funding rate of 70%, except for non-profit legal entities where 100% applies. As for the prizes that we are proposing this year, the prizes are recognition prizes. That is to say, financial contribution as reward to recognize past achievement, outstanding work that have been already performed. Please keep in mind that anyway, we expect in your proposal that you clearly state the starting and the end of the TRL that you target in your proposal, in your project, at the end of the project. As for section 2, those are activities that are considered analogous to research innovation action. For this reason, the TRL span from 3 to 7, and the funding rates are according to the national regulation. Next one, please. The breakdown of the calls 2021. As 2020 calls, for those who has experienced 2020 calls, we have 4 calls for proposal. You'll find 4 calls proposal for section 1, with 1 topic for each thematic area, so 4 topics in total. And for section 1, a single multi-topic call with topics for each thematic area, so 3 topics in total. In addition to that, for section 1, you'll find the call for context for the prizes that I was referring before, which has been entitled the Water, Energy, Food, Environment NEXUS Award, the WEFE NEXUS Award. Next, please. As for the budget foreseen for 2021 calls is 68 million euro, with an equal contribution from participant state and EU, approximately 33 million euro. And the EU contribution in section 1 is equally distributed for each thematic area, with about 8 million for each call, approximately, of course. Next one, please. Going to the content of the 2021 calls, this annual work plan will focus to increasing the resilience of smallholders to climate change and to other shocks like the COVID pandemic that we have experienced this year. And why we pay attention to the smallholders? Because, of course, they are very important. They have an important role. They play an important role in the Mediterranean region. In fact, they are managing approximately 80% of the small farms, and therefore they contribute significantly to food security in the region. So in this annual plan, we will contribute, our will is to contribute to the increase of the resilience of smallholders through research and innovation activities, aiming to further develop and adopt, possibly adaptive water management practice, sustainable agroecological practice in order to preserve and restore ecosystem and biodiversity, but also sustainable healthy diet. The orientation toward a green, resilient, and just recovery in the Mediterranean area is not only consistent with the PRIMA objective, of course, but is fully relevant to the new EU green, strategies of the Green Deal, the Farm to Fork and Biodiversity, to say some, but also to the objective of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. So next, please. I will not go in the details of the topics because my colleagues will illustrate them thoroughly after this presentation. Just to say that similarly to previous annual plan, we have you'll find 2 topics for each thematic area, one for section 1 and one for section 2. Worth to note that for the topic section 1 of water management, you'll find the NEXUS water soil that to prevent land degradation and desertification, to promote healthy soil, which is an objective is well aligned also with the Horizon Europe mission, caring for soil is caring for life. Next, please. For the other thematic area, you'll find as well 2 topics, one for section 1 and one for section 2. There for section 1, you'll find an innovation action with TRL from 6 to 7. Whereas for next, please, for food value chain as well, you'll find the 2 topics, one for section 1 and one for section 2, with the topic for section 1, which is again an innovation action. Next, please. As for the NEXUS thematic area, we propose a topic under section 1, which has a very consistent budget of 8 million euro for 2 projects. And the real novelty here is that we have introduced, in fact, the 4th pillar, the 4th leg of the WEFE NEXUS approach. And this is surely a novelty for this year call. Next, please. And then finally, the WEFE NEXUS award. As for the NEXUS WEFE prize, we foresee 2 monetary prizes of 10,000 euro each that will be rewarded for the proposal that better demonstrate the socio-economic benefits of the NEXUS approach. That possibly demonstrate the uptake of the results directly or by third parties, and in particular and possibly influencing policy change. And thirdly, to demonstrate the upscaling potential of this solution. The winner of these prizes will be announced during the WEFE NEXUS Science Advance, which is a big conference which is planned and co-organized with UFM, with the Cyprus Institute and by the European Commission, namely Joint Research Center and RTD. It has been planned for May 2021. In fact, we are planning to postpone it later on at the end of September, but notice on this important conference organized also by PRIMA will be, of course, disseminated in our website and through our socials. Next, please. This is the last one is about the call calendar, which is not easy to define because, as I told you, the approval of the annual work plan is not yet there from the European Commission and from our governing bodies. We plan, we expected to launch the call on the 15th, but of course this was not possible. And so we expect the call publication and opening the 1st of March, if possible. And then the submission process will be a 2-stage submission process with the submission deadline in April for both section 1 and section 2, and the result to the successful applicant that will be provided at the end of the year. So thank you very much for your attention. And now I pass the floor to my colleagues, project officer, to go in the details of the topics.
Yes, thank you very much, Antonella. Let me remind you that before we enter into the content of the topics as such, and it's important that we mention and we repeat and we underline that what we are presenting today is provisional, pending of the decision, as Antonella said, of the approval of the European Commission, and therefore small changes may appear later on. We expect to have the call launch before the end of this month, the end of February, but what we are encouraging you is to start as soon as you can, so that since you have all the information, you can start working as if the call were launched. So now I'd like to give the floor to Fabrice d'Entresangle, who will present the farming part of the call. Please, Fabrice.
Thank you, Octavie. Good morning to everybody, to all our attendees. I'm very pleased to present you the topic for the farming system. So I'm Fabrice d'Entresangle, and I will be in charge of managing this part. So we can have, the presentation. Thank you. So, okay. So this year, the thematic, we have three priorities that are open, and these three priorities are from the strategic research and innovation agenda, as Antonella just presented before. These three priorities are adaptation of agriculture to climate change, developing sustainable and productive agroecosystem, and developing farming system able to generate incomes, to create employment, and to contribute to territorial development. So this year we have two topics, one in section 1 and one in section 2. The topic of section 1 is an innovation action. So as it has just been presented, we are expecting projects that have high TRL, something very concrete, something very applied, that is almost functioning. And this topic will focus on, the title is increasing the environmental and socioeconomic performance of small-scale farming system through improvement in organizational aspect and new value chain governance. So this topic is really focusing on the socioeconomic system. While in section 2, we have a different topic, and this topic will focus much more on agricultural practices. It's a research and innovation action, so we are expecting a little bit lower TRL, even if we are looking for projects that are also applied. For both type of project, you should capitalize on previous MED project, on previous result, on previous EU project, because there are many data, and so we are looking for the valorization of this data to go further. So now I'm entering into the more detail of the section 1 topic. I will not repeat all the title, it's because it's quite long. So I will directly focus on the fact that is a socioeconomic topic. And as you all know, in the MED, the smallholders are the backbone of our food system. They are representing 70–80% of this production. But there is a kind of problem for all of them to access to the market. Please, Wahid. Yeah. Sometimes there is no connection between the farmers and the market. And also there is no connection among them sometimes. In other cases, there are existing organizations like cooperative, like association, but the system is quite complex. It's not really attractive. It's sometimes old-fashioned, and we have listened, there are problems of corruption also, sometimes in this kind of institution, a lack of investment. So all of this is not facilitating the access for the smallholders to the market. Of course, on top of that, if you had the problem of climate change due to the unsustainable practices, the fact that the farmers are also getting older. It's a group that is not very young because the field is not attractive, unfortunately. And so they have problem of training, they have a problem to access to the new technology. And so all of this, of course, is a break in the access to the market. And on the top of that, of course, if you add a pandemic such as the one we have this year, this has shaken absolutely all our system, all our relation. So we want to work on that, to find solution, to find a new governance system, organizational system that allow the farmers to access to this market and to tackle these problems of low incomes, of lack of attractivity of the fields, and the job creation also, and the lack of job for the young generation. So the scope, the approach of this call is always based on the three pillars of sustainability: the environment, the social, and the economic aspect. Here, we will focus on this social and governance aspect. We expect to have a project that will favor the connection between the farmers and the market, and also among them. So how to do that? These are some clues. Of course, you are free to develop the project you want, but we would like to see projects that are favoring short chain, local selling. Also, we have seen that during this COVID, this pandemic, the digitalization, the ability to sell online is a good way of being resilient or finding ways to sell your product. So this is a first way, but we are also expecting project that can develop a transformation unit that can be shared or that can be individual, because you can have added value by transforming raw product. You can sell them at a higher price. Here I'm focusing on the food, but we can also imagine that for recycling the waste, producing biofertilizer, etc. These kind of things. It's really open, but to have something with an added value for the smallholders. Of course, projects that are also trying to look for additional source of incomes are very welcome. Here, I just take an example as ecotourism, for example. You can be part of a tour, you can welcome tourists, you can sell your product. So these kind of approach are very welcome. And something on which we really want to insist is that the project or the proposal should really try to favor rural development, try to increase women empowerment. This is very important in the region, and to attract young people, create jobs for youth. Next, please. So, as it has been presented quickly, in PRIMA, we are always looking for projects that have a multi-actor approach. This means that we don't want only academic people, we want a diversity of the actors that have a complementarity in their skills, and so private, public, local stakeholders, people from the agro-food value chain, etc. A big range of actors, because we want you to put them all together around the table and to co-design the innovation. I remind you, this topic is an innovation action. And so you have to put in place this innovation. And this innovation only works if you have co-designed them with the final users. So since the beginning, we are encouraging you to develop your proposal all together, to co-design the proposal, and to implement your innovation in a living lab, in a demo site, in a farm, experimental farm, whatever, but something very concrete where you can show your result. And we want, so what we expect in the end, of course, it's a new model of governance, of organization. We expect to have also included in this proposal a cost benefits analysis showing that if you change the system, there are benefits for the smallholder to follow your new model of governance. The circular economy approach should be taken into account, of course, reducing waste, reducing food loss, etc. The system should be based on eco-friendly practices. This is a must in all our farming projects. And it should show some social innovation, frugal innovation, maybe action on policies, because all our calls are also related with actions of the European Commission, such as the Farm to Fork, for example. So here the budget for the call is 8.25 million euros. We are expecting to fund around 3 projects. This means a budget per project of 2.75 million euro. The duration of the project is between 3 to 4 years, up to you to decide. Next, please. So here, I will not present you the expected impact of this section 1. I will have a common slide of section 1 and section 2, because you will see that many of the expected impact are common. So now I'm switching to section 2 topic. Here, it's a topic that is more about agricultural practices, about agronomy, and it's about upscaling the field practices based on agroecological principles to increase ecosystem services and biodiversity, to adapt the small farming system to climate change, and to increase the farmers' incomes. So the main challenge is the loss of biodiversity. You know that the Med region is a hotspot for biodiversity, natural biodiversity, but also the diversity in the food we have. And unfortunately, as everywhere in the world, this diversity is disappearing because we are using unsustainable practices, mainly monoculture, and we are also using a lot of chemicals that are destroying our natural biodiversity. Next, please. So the scope and the approach of this topic is a little bit different. So it's more focused on agroecological practices, because we want a project that can boost ecosystem services, really make use of this biodiversity to reach the zero pollution ambition. That is also an action launched by the European Commission. So here we are expecting a methodology or to upscale all the actual knowledge we have in agroecological practices, about permaculture, about regenerative agriculture, conservation agriculture, etc. All these techniques that preserve the biodiversity, that can increase carbon sequestration in the soil, that can also increase organic matter, etc. We also expect projects to find alternatives to chemicals inputs. Of course, if we want to boost these ecosystem services, it's to decrease the use of chemicals, to find alternatives for weed control, for pest management. Here, I voluntarily put in the presentation antibiotic and antiparasites, because this topic is not only for crops, it's also for people of the livestock area. So it's important to remind that. As in general, in PRIMA, we always encourage the use of local species, the use of adapted varieties to the Med condition, because they are very specific. So trying to valorize these local species, this also natural biodiversity. And the ultimate goal of that, of course, is to have a sustainable system, a sustainable food system, and also to increase the farmers' incomes and their resilience. Next, please. The approach, again, it's again the multi-actor approach to have a co-design of the project, to have, yes, a very mutual understanding. And again, with circular economy approach, with a cost-benefit analysis. And here also you can develop things to valorize the product by certification. This is a link also to the topic of section 1, short chain value, creation of communities for resource sharing. Why not sharing materials? Because sometimes for diversification of crop, you don't have all the machinery, etc. So you can think about sharing materials, sharing knowledge, place like this. And also to make a link with the topic of the food, we can imagine projects that include training programs or education to healthy food, to have contract with schools, with local authorities, all these kind of things. The budget for this call is global. It's around 35 million euros. It's the section 2. As it has been explained, the section 2 is funded directly by the participating states, so you have to respect the national regulation. And we are expecting to have projects that are at least 1 million euro each one. So next one, please. Now I will present to you the expected impact of this project. So what we are expecting is to have new concrete solution, a concrete governance model or organizational model in section 1 and agroecological practices in section 2. This should be focused for smallholders under a climate change scenarios. And of course, we expect, especially in section 1, to have projects that ensure or facilitate the access to the market for the smallholders. In the end, we also want resilient systems that are resilient in terms of agronomy, but also in terms of economy, providing healthy food, high quality product that can, of course, increase the farmers' incomes and their satisfaction. And what is also very important, and we are trying to work really hard on this direction, to favor women empowerment and job creation, especially for the young. The goal also, our principle is always based on reducing food waste, loss, and reducing or eliminating any chemical inputs when it's possible. We expect all the projects to be developed in demo site, living labs, farm, experimental farms, something concrete, with a clear coordination of the actors and the development of new value chain. So these expected impact are also related with other EU actions, such as the Farm to Fork, the Green Deal, or the Zero Pollution Ambition. And I will finish just by the KPIs and SDGs. In all your project, it is mandatory to mention KPIs, key performance indicator. Here on this slide, I just put what is written in the call text, so what you can find in the orientation paper. I will not read that. It's just some example. The list is not exhaustive. You can develop your own KPIs tailor-made for your project. And also something that is very important, it's to link your project to sustainable developmental goals. This year in the farming system, we focus on SDG 2 and SDG 12, that is responsible consumption and production and the end of hunger. But of course, you can link your project to other SDGs, such as climate action, the water, life on land, etc. This is up to you. And so I will stop here. I thank you very much for your attention, and I will be pleased to answer your question if you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fabrice. Let me remind you that we are receiving plenty of questions which do not belong to what we recommended, that is to the speaker. And now you can raise questions both to Antonella and to Fabrice. Refrain from the asking questions from other sections, because there will be presentations that may clarify your uncertainties. The floor is yours, Marco. Marco is our expert on water, so he will make his presentation on the water topic. Please.
Okay, good morning to everyone who is following from home. We have seen that now we reach more than 1,000 attendees, and I think we're all proud to have such a number of people following from the Mediterranean countries. Just to introduce myself, my name is Marco Orlando, and I am the project officer in charge of the water management thematic area. Well, thanks, Fabrice, for giving me the floor, and thanks, Octavi. I think we can start now with my presentation. I'll give an outline of the two calls addressing water management in 2021. So I'm kindly asking the IT colleagues to make sure that we have the presentation on screen. I think this will happen in a couple of seconds. Okay, very good. So as you can see, and as anticipated already by my colleague Antonella, in 2021, we're going to have two topics, two separate calls addressing two separate topics on water management. It is basically the first one under section 1, it's a research and innovation action. You already probably familiarized with this terminology. And also the section 2 topic is going to be a research and innovation action. They are focused on different themes. The first one under section 1, namely topic 1.1.1, We'll address sustainable soil and water management to combat land degradation and desertification while restoring and promoting ecosystems, while the section 2 topic, namely topic 2.1.1, will address the alleviation of Mediterranean water scarcity by implementing adaptive water governance. We can now move on to the next slide and illustrate the challenge for the first topic, the one focused on land degradation. We know that obviously a big part of the Mediterranean area, namely almost 1/3 of it, is covered by dry lands. That is arid, semi-arid areas, subhumid areas that are increasingly facing the phenomenon, the adverse impact of the phenomenon known as land degradation. And also desertification, that is obviously the loss of our fertile soils that are becoming deserts. And this challenge is obviously made worse by a combination of human factors, anthropogenic factors, we can say, and natural factors. And you could see some of these factors in these slides, like, for example, soil erosion, land and water salinization, drought, and floodings. And all of these are made worse by the impact of climate change. On the other side, we said also human activities have an impact and kind of contribute to land degradation, like the existence of unsustainable agricultural practices, overgrazing and deforestation, drastic changes in land use. But on the other hand, we also have sometimes a lack of policies, a lack of strategic planning to address land degradation, and some socioeconomic factors, like, for example, the increasing urbanization and demographic pressure, which contribute to this challenge. Now, it's very apparent how this combination of factors and this increasing impact of land degradation can have negative consequences, not only on the environment, that is on the functioning of the ecosystems and the services that they provide, but also on society, because many areas affected by land degradations are rural areas where smallholder farmers rely on agriculture as a source of income, and their livelihood depend on agriculture. So land degradation can affect also the loss of biological productivity of the soils, also mean a loss of economic productivity for the small farmers. And many studies suggest that land degradation is linked with an increase in the migratory fluxes. So this is the background. We can move on to the next slide. So still part of the challenge is not just the factors that we have to address, but also how we are going to do it. There are several existing or past initiatives addressing land degradation. However, what we really have to look at is how to build on them, how to capitalize on them, how to identify good practice and scale them out and scale them up to the whole Mediterranean region. We can obviously make reference to some initiatives, to the United Nations Convention on Combating Land Degradation, initiatives like LandMed-Net that is implemented by the UFM, by SRIA, and by the FAO. We have to look at such initiatives, or also what has been done at national level, and capitalize on them, scale them up to the whole region. Obviously, there is a fragmentation in terms of what are the tools used to assess, to monitor, to identify land degradation across different countries, and we should look at harmonizing them, at having a more concrete, streamlined framework for monitoring and assessing this phenomenon. Because this is key to identify answers that can be implemented, measures that can be implemented across the region and not only at country level. Again, also the importance of combating land degradation and achieving land degradation neutrality, as envisaged by the UN Convention, should be important on the political agenda of all the countries, and the strategies should be aligned and built on a common ground. All of this to say that what is the main objective of this goal is to kind of identify, develop, and implement sustainable and land and water management measures, practices to both prevent land degradation and, on the other hand, recover and restore already degraded Mediterranean soils. Okay, so we have to work at two levels, both prevent and also kind of restore the healthiness of Mediterranean soils. We can move on to the next slide. I will give you some scope. As you can see here, we are showing kind of a synthesis, a summary of what you will see in the call text. That is the background, the challenge, the scope of the call, and the expected impact. Talking of the scope of this call, we are focused, as my colleague previously said, on this concept of on promoting the living lab approach. So what we expect from projects is to kind of create an enabling environment for the sustainable soil and water management practices to be implemented. And such an enabling environment can be also only achieved if there is kind of a participatory approach, participatory assessment of anything, any output, any result, any sustainable soil management solution that is developed within the project by the interested parties, the stakeholders, the policymakers, the communities that are affected by this phenomenon. So this is what we want to promote as a living lab approach concept. And you can see already some in the boxes, some keywords here, because concretely, what are the activities that we expect projects to carry out? We said already identify the good practices which already exist, and you find here some like agroforestry, agroecological practices, we are looking at sustainable pasture management as well, conservation agriculture. You can see also the strong link with not only the other calls of PRIMA, but some very relevant policy initiatives at international level that I'm going to mention as well. We have to look at such good practices, and we can include also the safe reuse of unconventional water, which is key for water security, for addressing the water security challenge in the Mediterranean. But we have to make sure that the water that we use, it doesn't affect the soils in a bad way. So you already can appreciate some good practices that we want to valorize through this call. We have to look also at what are the factors, the constraints that are for each specific location in the Mediterranean affecting negatively let's say the uptake, the use of the good practices by the local communities or by, I mean, the policymakers and so on. And we could have some constraints related to lack of knowledge, lack of capacity to address this challenge, land degradation, some socioeconomic factors, the inappropriateness of the policy or the governance framework, or the absence of the strategic planning to address land degradation. As I said, also as part of this effort, we have to look at ways to harmonize, streamline the tools for the assessment and the monitoring of this phenomenon, and to look also at the possibility of researching investment opportunities to promote sustainable soil management practices. That is also by assessing the trade-offs between at environmental and economic level, and also look at more sustainable business models that can help us tackle this challenge. It goes without saying that we are very much focused on this concrete on-the-ground approach to the living lab, the multi-actor approach. And so we're looking at the identification of Mediterranean land degradation hotspots where the activities and the efforts that I just mentioned can be carried out. We can move on to the next slide, that is the expected impacts. So we stressed the importance already in the previous presentation of aligning your project to the ongoing initiatives. I will repeat this very soon again. In terms of expected impacts, what we are expecting from this call to have some also decision support systems and tools for a better decision making and better policies to address land degradation challenges. As I said, it's important to see how the sustainable soil management practices can be sustained also financially. So projects that identify also possibilities to have some private financing opportunities to put in place sustainable land management practices are also welcome. The overall objective of the call is to counter land degradation, so to restore Mediterranean ecosystems and their functions and services, as well as to preserve and restore Mediterranean land and water. And indirectly, obviously, as we said in the first slide, as there are some very important socioeconomic consequences of land degradation, we believe that through these projects, through these innovative projects, we can also sustain the livelihoods of the small farmers by reducing land degradation, contributing to reducing food security related risks, and obviously preserving the sources of income and employment of Mediterranean smallholders. That is indirectly also tackling the migratory problems. Next slide, please. As Fabrice said before, it's very important that you include your own KPIs, key performance indicators in the projects. These can be chosen by yourselves. They can be tailored according to the objectives of your project, but you have to demonstrate, and this is key during the evaluation of the proposals, that you are able to measure the progress of your project towards the achievement of the targets. So here you have some examples. Feel free to include additional KPIs in your project. Next slide, please. And here again, you can also align your project to the targets of some specific sustainable development goals. And you find some examples here. Please be aware that you will find also this information in the call text, okay? So make sure that you check the orientation paper and then the annual work plan, and you will find also there this information. Please also highlight how your projects are going to contribute to the PRIMA strategic research and innovation agenda, to the call expected impacts, but also how they are aligned with important policy actions at international level, at national level, like the Green Deal at EU level, or the Horizon Europe missions on addressing soil sustainability. And another important aspect concerning the expected budget for the projects of this call, we are going to fund 3 projects with an expected budget of 2.75 million euros each. So obviously the budget requested may be slightly different, but PRIMA believes that to tackle effectively this call, such a requested budget could be sufficient for each project. I think we can move on to the next presentation, to the next topic. This, again, as anticipated, is focusing on the alleviation of water scarcity through adaptive water governance. You already see 2 very important keywords. We know very much that Mediterranean countries are facing water scarcity. The Mediterranean is going to become much drier and hotter in the future years because of the effect of climate change. And obviously future climate scenarios are not very much encouraging because, for example, to give an example, extreme weather events are going to become much more frequent and affect the way our ecosystems, our agricultural systems and the water systems work. So to counter this problem, water scarcity, we already have developed through PRIMA projects and also through research and innovation efforts at international level, a wide portfolio of technical, technological, and management solutions to address water scarcity from 2 points of view. By increasing water availability, that is through the circular approach of reusing water, desalinating saline water, and from the other point of view, that is increasing the water use efficiency for agricultural purposes, that is using the available water in a better way, in a more productive way to grow more crops. However, this is not sufficient because we have to couple such advancements, such solutions to innovative institutional arrangements. We have to decrease the implementation gap between the governance framework, the legislative frameworks, and relevant rules, and the compliance of the economic sectors on the ground. And for such reasons, this is the core issue that we are looking at with this call. Now, we can proceed with the next slide to highlight the scope. Even here, as you already understood, we are looking at the governance, how to improve water governance in the Mediterranean. We are identifying 3 main criteria that better water governance has to respond to. That is resource maximization, how to make the best use of water. The second criterion is equitable allocation of water. That is, we have to assess the real needs of water users and make choices which are equitable when it comes to allocating water, and promoting the multi-actor approach, the dialogue between all the parties involved in the sector. So even here, I prepared a few boxes and a few keywords for you to to grasp really what we are looking for. Obviously, while promoting the alternative technologies like and practices like the use of unconventional water resources or rainwater harvesting, aquifer recharge, and nature-based solutions, we have to, on the other hand, establish what are the limits for the use of water by each and everyone who makes use of this resource. And to do this, we need obviously to have an idea of the balance between the supply side and the demand side. We have to consider the availability of water, how it will be affected in space and time, what are the variations to make a decision on establishment of water use limits. We have to understand what is the competition between the different sectors, the different communities, between agriculture and the other economic sectors, or by the citizens as well, considering also the impact of climate change and promoting a dialogue between water planners and water users. Again, even here, we have this focus on the integration of social sciences and economics into projects. We are expecting multidisciplinary projects to tackle effectively this challenge. And by looking, and we need this involvement of social science and economics to really assess the needs of the different water users. And our recommendation is also to look at how disruptive ICT, like Earth observation, the use of Copernicus data and operational services, and artificial intelligence can be integrated in projects, since we are talking about decision-making ultimately, to develop and guarantee the use by water planners, water decision makers of decision support tools for sustainable water management. We can go to the next slide, that is the expected impacts. What we are looking with this call is the establishment of Mediterranean demo sites to test efficient water governance and develop innovative policy solutions. So this could also take the form of new organizational models for water governance, namely by involving in public-private partnership, all the parties concerned. We have an example here, what we call the quadruple P, people, public, private partnership. And obviously we expect that this can contribute to the reduction of the mitigation of water-related conflicts. It will increase also the legitimacy of the policy and legislative framework, because it's a participatory process that will lead to this development of innovative policy and innovative water governance. And as I anticipated initially, we are looking at, since a participatory process entails, let's say, more ownership by everyone of the resulting policies and governance, we're also expecting a decrease of the implementation gap between the rules and obviously the compliance by society and the economic sectors. Before I conclude, the next slide, I will show some KPIs, some key performance indicators as we have listed them in the call text. Again, feel free to include additional ones in the projects. And again, in the next slide, we are showing you how to align your KPIs to the specific sustainable development goals target linked with this call. Please, once again, I remind you that you shall highlight the relevance of your project to not only the call, but relevant EU and international policy actions. In this case, again, I repeat it, the Green Deal, Horizon Europe missions, or for example, the Water Framework Directive, and any other relevant action or policy action at international level. Section 2 call, we are talking of projects requesting a budget of 1 million or so, or even higher. But obviously this is regulated by the national regulations, so you shall also check obviously what is the budget that your national funding agency can contribute to. And this, we will have a presentation later on by my colleague. So I'd like to conclude here. Thanks everyone for the attention, and obviously everyone who wishes to have more information, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. Now you can raise all the questions related to water to our friend Marco. And let me now introduce the next speaker, Ali Ruma. He will be presenting the topic of NEXUS, which is essential for PRIMA and the future. So, Ali, over to you.
Thank you so much, Octavi. Thanks a lot for the UFM for hosting us as usual each year. Today I will present the NEXUS topic. We are in the third year. So in 19, it was research and innovation action. Last year it is innovation action, and this year it will be an innovation action. So as you can see here from the title, that we included the energy, and the energy, as you know, is very important in the agri-food value chain, and mainly in the intimate link to water. Next, please. So in this presentation, I'm going to start by a short introduction. I think a short introduction that frame the NEXUS concept. So as you know, since its emergence in 2011 in the Bonn NEXUS conference, the NEXUS concept has attracted wide attention among academic research and policy sector. So this concept encompasses the idea that production and consumption chains of water, energy, food, and ecosystem are intricately linked. So the impact in one sector affects the performance on the other sector. So as you can see here from this slide, water is important for the livelihood, for drinking, but also for irrigation. And as you know, agriculture and the food production accounts even more than 70% of water withdrawal, which is very important, the biggest user of water, agriculture. In the same way, water is used to produce energy, and energy is required for pumping, for water desalination, and for wastewater treatment. But also energy is used for the food processing. So, and for the food production, it requires around 30% of energy use. So you see here that it's a holistic approach, it's systemic, that integrates the management and governance across these sectors and scales. So here, if we understand this concept, the interdependence between the different sectors, so here we have to improve the three security. And as you can see here, when I say the three securities, so the energy security, the water security, and the food security. And this will, of course, will allow us to reduce the conflicts. We will reduce the trade-off between the sector and maximize the synergies between the sector. And this will support, of course, the green economy. And when we say a green economy, is the efficient resources and the socially sustainability. And this will, of course, contribute to achieve the sustainable development goals. So this is, I think, after framing this concept of NEXUS, and you can see that from the NEXUS we can achieve the main SDGs. Next, please. So let's go to the challenges of these topics. So here, the main important challenge is how we can shift from the what we call the business as usual, the zero approach, to another one that connect the different sectors. It's a short connection. It's like an interdependence between the different sectors. So, as you know, in the Mediterranean, in our region, the different resources are managed separately. They are managed separately by different institutions, different rules, and different policies. Besides this, the increase of demand of food, energy, and water, and also the climate change are putting more pressure. They are putting more pressure on these resources, making them increasingly scarce. So this situation will lead us to several conflicts on the resources. So we will have several conflicts on the resources. We will have a lot of problem on the security of water, security of energy, and security of food. But this situation will lead us to have more poverty and more migration in the region. So this situation begs for an integrated approach. When we say an integrated approach, is the integrated management and governance across the sector and scale. However, in spite of the tremendous effort made in the region at the theoretical level since the Bonn conference, there is still few progress on the operationalization of the NEXUS. We see that the implementation of NEXUS need to be thinking, and we need to be work on the operationalization of the NEXUS and making this operationalization in the policy making. And as you know, there is no incorporation of the NEXUS approach into policies, planning, and management of resources. So the research here can have an important role. So NEXUS can operationalize, can help to in the implementation of the NEXUS. And here we have a lot of challenges tackling the operationalization of the NEXUS. First off is the knowledge on the interaction. And I think since 2011, we have a lot of tools. We have a lot of quantitative tools that can interact and help for the interaction between the different sectors. The second one is how we can avoid this compartmentalization between the decision makers. And this is, I think, it's very, very important. The third one is how we can identify the solution. We have a lot of solutions. We have a lot of NEXUS solutions that alleviate the NEXUS conflicts. And the fourth one is how we can identify the measures that overcome the solution, the economic and the technical barriers that hinder the implementation of the NEXUS in the ground. Next, please. So what's the scope of this call? In order to tackle these challenges, next, please. To tackle these challenges, the main concept here is how to translate, to operationalize the NEXUS, and from the NEXUS concept to the practical solution and into policy-making processes. So this is very important because you know that since the 2011, we have a lot of analytical model, we have a lot of modeling platform, we have a lot of algorithm NEXUS already available, and we need to implement the NEXUS concept into practical solution. To do so, the proposer should identify good practices, and I think we have a lot of existing good practices in the Mediterranean region, but also we can have new ones, new practices. And then you have to identify the barriers to the NEXUS implementation and the appropriate tool for the implementation of the NEXUS. So these good practices should be implemented. Next, please. Should be implemented in specific sites in the Mediterranean region characterized by different climate conditions and different socioeconomic issues. So here, what we are for the NEXUS solution, all the technologies, all the decision support system, or the models, or the digital solution and the data infrastructure should be implemented and validated in close collaboration with the stakeholders. When we can see the stakeholders here, all the stakeholders, and I put here the association, the civil society, the water provider, the private sector, the farmers, and the policymaker. But I stress here the importance of three main key stakeholders: the policymakers, the end users, and the private sector. I think this is very, very important. And then the proposal should quantify the trade-off, because there is a lot of trade-offs between the sector, and the proposal should quantify using different tools the trade-off and synergies between the different sectors. Next, please. Once you quantify the trade-offs and the synergy between the sectors, the proposal should analyze the economic, environmental, and social implication of the implemented solution. What you have implemented, we need, of course, to analyze the economic, environmental, and social implication of this of the solutions. And the fourth important pillar here is the replication of the NEXUS solution and the impact on SDGs. I think this is very important because since you will involve the stakeholders, the key stakeholders in these type of projects, so we need to think about how we can replicate the NEXUS solution in other region. It's very important because we need to replicate what we will do in the region and how we can achieve the main sustainable development goals. Next, please. So what are the expected impacts? Since it is a multidisciplinary topic, so we expect to have several expected impacts. First off, which is, I consider that the key expected impact here is the increased water and energy use efficiency that contribute to reduce the conflicts in the allocation of resources and the adaptation and resilience to climate change. I think this is very important. This very important expected impact. And as you know, this is what we are looking here, that the NEXUS will contribute to reduce the conflict. But why, when we say that we will reduce the conflict, and then we have to reduce the trade-off, and we will maximize the synergy between the different sectors. And if we have this reduction of the trade-off, then we will have to maximize and do the energy and the water and the resource efficiency. And this will contribute, of course, to reduce the conflicts between the resources. Because what we are living now, and I think we are experiencing, and we will experience even more, the problem of the conflict between the resources, mainly water, as I said, and agriculture is the biggest consumer of water. And this will allow us to build a green economy, and this is the adaptation and the resilience to climate change. Second impact, which is also very important, and it can derive from the first one, is that the project we can enable us to develop methodology and guidelines that stimulate the integration use of resources. I think this is very important. The third one, what we expect here is how we can improve the institutional capacity, how we can support the interregional dialogue and integration of knowledge. I think this is the building capacity is very important in the NEXUS, since we need to improve this building capacity around all the stakeholders in the Mediterranean region. The last and not least is the replicability. And as I said here, we are looking to ensure the viability and replicability of the demonstration case after the end of the project. And this is, I think, very important. Here I put the SDGs, and as you remember for the first slide, that I said the NEXUS, if we implement the NEXUS, we reduce all these trade-offs, maximize the synergy, we will support and support the transition to the green economy, and this is the vehicle to achieve the SDGs. And we said the vehicle to achieve the SDGs. Here, we cannot, of course, achieve all the SDGs, but here I just put 2, 6, and 7, which are linked to water, energy, and food. But ecosystem, you can find it, for instance, in 15. But also, you have the 3 main SDGs, but in your project, you can target other SDGs. For instance, 3, 5, 8, and 12. Next, please. So to follow up, I think, and to monitor your proposal, your project, I think it's very important to highlight the key performance indicators. Here, I already mentioned some key performance, and as said my colleagues, please feel free to choose your own key performance indicators. It's just some examples, like the degree of integration of policies, the number of stakeholders involved in the innovative experiments, the number of technologies, and I said there is a lot of, you will implement technologies, you will implement a decision support system, you will implement management tools, so we can, you have a number of these technology, but also the best practices assessed economically, environmentally, and socially. The link with the EU policies, I think it's very important here, like the farm to fork strategy, the biodiversity strategy, and the Horizon Europe on soil health and food, and different other European partnership. So I will end up here by highlighting 2 aspects. The first one is the involvement of these stakeholders. Please be careful to involve. It's very important for the NEXUS. It's during the planning, implementation, and after the project. The second one, and I think it's very important, you have to make use of the what do you call it, the project. What you have to make use of what has been done before. And I think in H2020 you have several projects in the NEXUS. You have also in PRIMA, we funded in 19 and 20. So you have to make use of lesson learned from these projects. And thank you so much and have a good luck.
Thank you very much, Ali. Thank you for this presentation. NEXUS is not obvious to present, so thank you very much. And now let's turn to Mohamed Vaguet, who is our specialist on food, and he will make his presentation of the last part of the call. So, Mohamed, over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Octavi. Good afternoon to all of you everywhere. We are really excited to see that more than 1,000 participants already involved here in this meeting and around 200 following us on the YouTube. So without losing the time, I'm going to share with you directly the topics of the agri-food for this year. So for 2021, we will have, for the agri-food, we will have 2 topics. One topic under section 1, which is an innovation action, and innovation action means that it is closer to the market. It is like prototyping or producing like commercialized products. So we are talking about the high TRL from 6 to 7. We are expecting to fund around 3 projects under this topic with a total budget allocated for this topic 8.4 million. And we have another or a second topic for section 2, which is also an agri-food, but this time it is a research innovation action. So we are talking about the TRL from 3 to 7. And as my colleagues already mentioned that, we are expecting to fund projects with a budget at least 1 million. So let's start with the first topic, which is, sorry guys, on the PRIMA, on UFM, please, if you can mute your mic. Thank you. Okay, for the first topic under section 1, which is increase the adherence to the Mediterranean diet as a sustainable pattern. As we said, it is an innovation action. So when we say it is an innovation action, so we are expecting a real engagement and involvement of the stakeholders and the private sector. So this is very important, especially with a high TRL. So this means that you need SMEs or companies to market the product that you are going to produce. So this is very important. Okay, the first part, as usual, is the challenges facing the region. So as we know that just before starting, it's important to note that when we talk about diet, it is broader than just the food. But according to the UNESCO definition, diet is social practices based on all local expertises and knowledge and traditions, covering as well the Mediterranean basin, cultures, as well as in particular, the way we consume food. We can note that the non-communicable diseases such as cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, chronic respiratory diseases have been emerged as leading causes of morbidity and mortality worldwide. Several of our today behaviors make us more likely to develop NCDs. Another example, which is the prevalence of overweight and obesity. In 2018, the WHO Europe office stated that nearly 1 in 8 children is obese on average in Europe. We can notice that countries like Cyprus, Italy, Greece, Malta, and Spain show the highest obesity rate among children in Europe. For southern and eastern part of the Mediterranean, it is noticed that Egypt and Turkey are among the top countries with the highest obesity children all over the world. For adults, it is more or less the same scenario, that the WHO Regional Office for Eastern Mediterranean indicated that several MENA countries show a high incidence of overweight and obesity among adults, ranging from 75 to 85% for women and around 70% for men. This situation is strange in a region that is characterized by its traditional diet, which has been recognized as one of the healthiest dietary patterns in the world. So the scope of this year is to increase the adherence toward the Mediterranean healthy diet. In order to approach this, so we defined like a set of steps or approaches that we are expecting you as an applicant to satisfy in order to achieve this ultimate goal. So the first step that the applicants need to do is to valorize the components and the elements of the dietary patterns, identifying the consumption currently implemented mechanisms. Also, you need to evaluate the behavior, the food behavior drivers and enabling factors, as well as analyzing the behavior change initiatives and actions in order to realize the gaps or the best practices, so you can replicate the best practices elsewhere, or you can satisfy and fulfill the gaps. Also, it is important as well for projects to develop and to introduce to the market new food products and new food forms. And this for sure will be in a need to have like a tailored business models and suitable market strategies, considering that you are going to compete against junk food and fast food. Also, the project needs to have a robust communication and dissemination action, including, for instance, education campaigns and public awareness. So you will make sure that you are going to empower as well your customers and the population, or the sample of the population that you are going to tackle. And this will not fly without being accompanied with promoting the healthy and sustainable lifestyle. Also, we need to highlight here that the transition toward affordable, nutritious, healthy food system is very much consistent with the EU Green Deal New Farm to Fork strategy, or F2F, which is reflecting the ongoing transformation of the food system worldwide. So the expected impacts or the results from this topic, it can be categorized in two main pillars. The first pillar, which is the identification phase or the identification part. First is to analyze the current food system already implemented in the countries involved in your project, identifying the potentials, changes, how to encourage such a transition toward a healthy Mediterranean diet. Also, you need to identify and classify the different barriers for this, such as social barriers, cultural, religious, behavior, or economic. Also, you need to determine the food local determinants, such as education, awareness, socioeconomic aspects, and identify the market dynamics. The second phase or the second pillar of the expected impact can be to introduce, as we said, that to introduce new products that consider the consumers at its heart, fulfilling their preferences and health needs and demands. Also, you need, as we said, to work with your consumers and with the population directly through an empowerment activities, making the food information available, purpose communication actions, and awareness campaign and educational campaign. And as we said, that we need as well to have new business models that can market and promote such a good eating habits that meet as well the preferences of the consumers, as well as the food will be affordable. And once you achieve your ultimate goal, which is the adherence to the Mediterranean, it is important as well to do some qualitative and quantitative assessment in order to monitor and to report the achievement that you are going to score. As usual, we have predefined a set of key performance indicators, but for sure you can add as well an extra for your own. But here just we list down some of them, like the number of the engaged stakeholders, the percentage of consumer empowerments, and the percentage of the consumer satisfaction, the number of new health products and foods that you are going to introduce to the market, and the number of socio-cultural actions and strategies that you can draft within your project. And as my colleague already mentioned, that we keep linking our projects and topics to the SDGs. So here we are referring to the indicator 2.2.1 and 2.2.2, and we keep always highlighting the importance of checking regularly the PRIMA Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, because for each thematic area and for each priority under each thematic area, we keep identifying the main dimensions and directions for this topic, which is like, for instance, food. And we as well mentioned some KPIs at the level of the program. So this is for the first topic, which is under section 1, as we said. Now we just here a point not to be confused between the topic of the 2020, which has been already finished, and 4 projects successfully managed to be funded under the 2020. The last year's topic was addressing the health aspects and the bioactive components inside the Mediterranean diet. But for this year, we are gonna to have like a more holistic and wider spectrum and holistic approach, increasing how to increase the adherence to Mediterranean dietary pattern. Maybe that's why you can see that we have for this year, for 2021, we have a bigger budget for each project, around 2.8 million for each project. So now moving to the second topic for agri-food for this year, which is under section 2, which is increasing the resilience of small-scale farms to global challenges and COVID-like crises. It is a research and innovation action topic. We are expecting a TRL from 3 to 7, and we, as keep mentioning that, we are expecting to fund projects with a budget at least 1 million. Again, starting with the challenges about the fragility of the Mediterranean food system. During the time of COVID, we all noticed that such restrictions on the movement. Zooming on the smallholder, they are facing the limitation to access the market so they can sell their products, or to access to their suppliers so they can buy their inputs. Such restriction in the movement as well reflect negatively on an increase in the food production accumulation, as well as impressive increase in the food losses. As well, this reflects as well on the reduction in the production capacity to produce food and shrinking in the purchasing power. With all these aspects together, this reflects negatively all over the Mediterranean for many people, for different populations for sure, but especially for the marginalized people, such as the smallholders, small producers, small farmers. So they are suffering from a decrease in their income, and as well as increase in the food insecurity in the region. So the scope of this year is we are asking the applicants to develop strategies to improve the resilience to new challenges emerged, such as COVID-19 pandemic and similar, and to assist them how to cope or try to smooth its effect for the producers, and in particular for sure the smallholder and the small producers. Also, it is important to develop digital technologies and innovative applications that can improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the agri-food value chain and supply chain, such as smart agri-food supply chain. Also, we may be in a need as well to have modern and more dynamic business models that can cope with any similar crisis in the future, as well as developing some crisis management tool and have some best practices and case studies involving the different stakeholders and the smallholders. And finally, during the time of the COVID, we all noted the importance of the internet and the e-commerce. So it is very important to use this tool as well to shrinken the value chain, so the farmers and the small producers can be contacted directly to their retailers and to their suppliers, as well as they can communicate directly with their final consumers. The expected results or impact of this topic is first to ensure income increase to the smallholders at the time of the COVID, decrease the inefficiency and barriers to market access for them, greater efficiency and sustainability in the food processing, as well as to use wisely the available resources that we have, increase in the mitigation capabilities in the Mediterranean countries, increase the profitability. And this can be achieved through reducing the production cost, decrease the food losses, and increase the quality of the product that they are going to develop. Again, some predefined KPIs. First, the number of new models of smart agri-food value chain that you are going to develop, the number and the quality of the developed e-commerce channels and its efficiency, and the number and the quality of the technological solution that you are gonna to design and to develop. And once again, finally, we keep again highlighting the importance not only to read your call text, but also to go to the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda published on the PRIMA website, check the thematic area that you are gonna to address and the priority that you are gonna to tackle as well in your project, and read carefully the scope of these priorities and this thematic area, as well as the predefined KPIs at the level of the program. Thank you so much and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for this good presentation. And we finished the first session now, a little bit behind schedule. So we were supposed now to be answering questions. I realize that most questions have been answered on written. Let me just take a couple of them, which seems to me more relevant in terms of policy. And there is a question saying, will PRIMA stay in the context of Horizon Europe? What budget will be dedicated to its funding? And let me be very clear. PRIMA at this stage is a Horizon 2020 program, meaning that the funding comes from Horizon 2020 and the rules that apply are from Horizon 2020. But we cannot forget that there are new orientations now in Horizon Europe and will not be aside from them, meaning them, for instance, the policies that Europe is pushing, such as the Green Deal, Farm to Farm, everything that, that you may think of that goes into this new program will need to be well, receptive to it and carefully listening to what's going on and trying to combine the projects with the new views of Horizon Europe, including, for instance, the notion of missions. That means, I mean, I will not go into that now, but it means a different approach on the way the projects are done. So that's my first answer to this question. The second one is a question saying the submission deadline is 1.5 months after the official launch of the call. Don't you think that this is too short? It is if you consider that the official launch of the call. But what we are saying today and what we are doing today is all the information you need to start working, meaning that even though the call for Section 1 is foreseen for the 14th of April, that means that you have 2 months, and moreover, this is for pre-proposals or proposals of only 10 pages each, which are not the same as fulfilling completely full proposals. So I think that you have 2 months to prepare your pre-proposals to proposals of 10 pages, and we estimate that this is enough to write and prepare good proposals. Let me go to the next question, and it will be the final one. The question says that PRIMA has adopted a 2-stage evaluation approach. How many proposals are expected to be invited to submit full proposals? I would suggest that PRIMA not to select more than 8-10 per call. We have a quite simple rule of thumb for proposals going to stage 2. That is, we want to ensure that we have a success rate for stage 2 of both Section 1 and Section 2 of around 30%. So we invite 3 times as many proposals as we'll be able to fund. So we invite 3 times the number of proposals, and this is how we set the bar for inviting proposals to come to stage 2. So all those proposals that are in the ranking list of stage 1 that mean 3 times the number of proposals to be funded, those are invited. Okay, thank you very much. We'll break now for 10 minutes, not more than 10 minutes. Sorry about that. We said 15, but otherwise we will not finish on time. and we'll get back here at 11 sharp. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. We are back to the session, which is the last session. Let me, before I go to it, this session will be on information on how to submit proposals and the evaluation call management rules. I have a question from Mrs. Pelagia Monu. I hope that your concerns will be answered in this session. In case they are not, I'll tackle your question certainly afterwards. And without furthermore ado, I'd like to invite again Fabrice to give his presentation on submission and evaluation of proposals. So Fabrice, over to you.
Thank you very much. So now I will present you how to apply, what are the conditions, some more practical aspects to submit your proposal. So yeah, the first one, so I've seen several questions about that. How many participants I need to compose my consortium? It's at least 3 independent entities coming from 3 different countries participating in PRIMA. And we need at least 1 partner from an EU country, a northern country, and 1 partner from a non-EU country, so a south country. And the third one can be or in the north or in the south. But the 3 of them must be in a PRIMA participating state. Next one. Also, where you can find all the information. All the information about the calls, about the templates, it's on our website. Our website is our main source of information. You will find all the information about the call. I will present you just in the next slide the calls. And also there is 2 interesting tools, the partnering tool to find partner that will be presented by my colleague Ali in the next session. And also if you want to be part of the evaluation committee, there is an expert registration tool where you can submit your CV. And so you are in our database, and according to the scope of the call, we can contact you to be part of this. Of course, if you are an evaluator, you cannot submit or participate to any proposal submitted to PRIMA the same year. This is a condition. Next one, please. So the general information, as I told you, everything is on our website. There is a section called Call for Proposal. And so under this section, when you click, you can have the detail of the call. Next one, please. This is what it looks like. So you click on Call for Proposal, and here you have the list of the call open for this year. The list of the call in section 1 and the list of the call section 2. There is a button with more info. So when you click on this button, more info, of course, you will have more information on the call. You will find the full call text, and also at the bottom of the page, you will find all the documents that are needed to submit. So you must, of course, read the guidelines because they explain everything that is needed, that is requested, the eligibility, the admissibility. I will explain you that later on, but you will find this document. You will find the templates that are needed to submit your proposal. Do not use other templates than the ones that are on our website. And yes, and once you have all the documents ready, next one, please. You want to submit your proposal. So there is a button called Submit Proposal just in front of the title of the call. And when you click on this button, you are automatically redirected to the ANR platform, the French platform that is our submission platform. So if you are already registered in this platform, you enter your email address and your password. If you are not registered, you can request a new password, and then it will create you an access. This is the coordinator that has to do that. Only the coordinator creates the proposal on the submission website, so through the button I've just showed you, and he will have to enter the main information about the project, the title, the duration, etc. And here, I want to raise your attention on the electronic submission system handbook, because I will not detail in this presentation all the steps that are required to submit your proposal. But there is this nice handbook that is done with screenshot, and it guides you step by step on how to submit from the beginning to the end. So I really encourage you to read this handbook, to have it close to you when you are submitting your proposal. And it's also, of course, available on our website. You can find it easily. Next one, please. As I just told you, it's the coordinator that will create the proposal online, and he will have to invite his partner. So he will enter the data of his partner, mainly the name and the email address. And once this is done, there is an automatic message that is generated and that is sent to the partner, and it invites him to log to the platform and to fulfill all the administrative data and financial when needed. Next one. So under the menu call for proposal, there is also a section called reference document. So here, the reference document is really where you can find all the documents about PRIMA, our legal documents, but also the strategic research and innovation agenda that we have referred to when we were presenting the topic, because there are priorities inside. So you can have a look to this document, the annual work plan. Once it is validated, you will find it here. And you will have also the grant agreement model to have an idea about the rules for financial aspects for section 1. And then there are two sections, guidance for section 1, guidance for section 2, in which there is the guidelines, the call text, and the electronic submission handbook. There is another section that is called templates. So in this section, you will find all the templates you need. Just go back. Yeah. You will find the templates for the part 1, the administrative data, and the templates for the part 2, that is your proposal itself. Next one. So what is needed to submit a full proposal? You need to have an eligible consortium. This is a must, of course, so be careful. In section 1, almost all the entities are eligible to participate, but in section 2, you have to respect the national regulation of your countries. So this is very important. Sometimes, for example, private partners can be funded, sometimes not. So it depends on the status of your entity. So for section 2, please be sure to be eligible before starting. And then you have to submit all the documents. These documents have to be uploaded on the submission platform, the ANR platform, and it consists on part 1, the administrative data. So this is a template, please. It's a template. I will present you this template just after. The part 2, that is your document, the core document of your submission, because it is your proposal. And for the budget at stage 1, we only request the global budget for each partner. So, and the global budget, there are 2 data to enter. It's the full cost of the project and the amount requested to PRIMA or to the funding agency. It depends. The amount you request, normally it's very clear. The full cost of the project, sometimes there are some misunderstanding, but this is the total cost of the project. It means that it's all the resources you will invest in this project. You have part of your project that can be funded by PRIMA or the funding agency, but sometimes you have additional source of funding, such as a PhD that is funded by the university, or the salary of the permanent staff that can be covered also directly by the university or the enterprise or whatever. So this counts as own funding. So this is what we are requesting here. For the stage 2, you have to submit a detailed budget. And here, when it will be the moment, we will upload on the platform the Excel files that are needed. But it's only needed for the stage 2, the full proposal stage. If not, we don't want the detail of your budget. Be careful about the budget. The templates are different for section 1 and section 2. Section 1, the template is exactly the one as H2020. For section 2, it's a specific template for the funding agency. And of course, you have to fulfill all the data that are requested in the platform. It's not a lot, but it's mainly administrative data about your institution and about yourself, the PI. So there is an admissibility check, meaning that we will look that you have submitted all the requested documents, and an eligibility check of your consortium. The eligibility check is done by PRIMA for section 1 and by PRIMA and the funding agency for section 2. So now just the content quickly of the part 1, the administrative part. It's very simple, but don't forget to upload this document. If not, your project cannot be declared eligible and cannot pass to the evaluation step. This is a very simple document. It's about the title, the acronym, the list of the partners, and a small abstract, keywords, the call to which you are applying, the topic, and the type of research, the type of action you are submitting to, innovation action or research and innovation action. And then there are some quick questions asked to the coordinator if the project has been submitted in the past, if you have checked the eligibility, these kind of things that you just tick a box, but it's very important. Also an important point, I forget to tell you, the submission website is open 1 month before the deadline. So it will not be open tomorrow. If you try to log, it will not work. You have to wait 1 month before the deadline. From this moment, you will be able to access the submission website and so to upload all your documents and the data requested. Next one. The part 2. So I will not detail this part because there will be a specific presentation by Mohamed that will explain you what we are expecting to see under each title. But just to let you know that the part 2, so it's your scientific document, it's your project. And for the pre-proposal stage, it's limited to 10 pages. If you are above 10 pages, the system will automatically reject your proposal. So be careful, 10 pages maximum for stage 1. For the proposal that are invited to stage 2, there are the template, of course, has more section, and it will be limited to 50 pages. Again, I will not enter into details. My colleague will present you that later on. Next, the evaluation process. How does it work? So you submit your proposal. We receive all the documents, and as I just told you, we will do an admissibility check and an eligibility check. This eligibility check is very important in section 2 because each funding agency is verifying if you are following their rules. If you have passed this step, so the proposal is declared eligible, and we send your proposal to 3 independent experts that are covering the topic of your project. These experts are anonymous. They don't know each other. They don't know who is participating to the evaluation. They don't know who is evaluating what. It's totally blind. So each evaluator is doing his own evaluation remotely. We call that the individual evaluation report. And then once we have received all the individual evaluation, we gather all the evaluators into a panel. And in this panel, the evaluator discuss and rank the proposal. So at the end of the stage 1, they provide us a list of recommended projects to be invited for the full proposal stage. And when you are on this list, okay, you are invited to submit your full proposal. So we start again the process of submission, admissibility check, eligibility check, and then your project is again sent to 3 independent experts. And again, we have a panel, and this final panel recommend a list to be funded. In section 1, the funding comes directly from the European Commission, so from us. You will sign the grant agreement directly, the coordinator and PRIMA. And while in section 2, each beneficiary is signing a contract with his national funding agency, because he will receive the fund from his national funding agency and not from PRIMA. Then, of course, the project starts and we have the monitoring period of the project. Next one, please. The evaluation criteria are very simple. They are the H2020 criteria, 3 criteria: excellence, impact, quality and efficiency of the implementation. This last, quality and efficiency of the implementation, is only for stage 2. For the pre-proposal stage, we only have excellence and impact. Both are scored out of 5 points, so they have equal scoring. So it's very important to take care of the impact section that is mainly the one that is neglected by the people, but it's very important because it counts for half of the point. For innovation action, the impact section is also very important because there is a weight of 1.5 for the score. So we multiply the score by 1.5 for the innovation action. There are also thresholds that you have to respect or you have to reach to be invited to the next step or to be invited for funding. The threshold for stage 1, it's 4 points out of 5 in excellence and 4 points out of 5 in impact. If you have 5 and 3, it doesn't work. You need at least 4 and 4 in each criteria. For the stage 2, the full proposal, there is the additional criteria implementation. And here the threshold is 3 out of 5 for each criteria, 3 in excellence, 3 impact, 3 implementation, but with a global overall score of 10 out of 15. These are the threshold. Next one. Here, these are the evaluation criteria. I will not read it, of course. These are the details of the criteria. So what there is under excellence, under impact, and under the efficiency of the implementation. You can find this information in the guidelines in our orientation paper. These are the classical H2020 criteria, as I already told you. The recommendation. Don't wait the last minute. It's a simple process, but it takes time. It takes time to enter all the names and all the entities in the website. It's not difficult, but it takes time. And when everybody also is logged at the same time, of course, the system is slower, and so it generates troubles and inconvenience. So just start. You can always save what you have entered. You will not lose at all the information entered. So start from the beginning, entering step by step the necessary information. Be sure to submit the part 1, the administrative data. We insist because each year we declared project non-eligible for this reason. This is a pity. So please check, have your checklist. I need the part 1, I need the part 2, and I need an overall budget for the stage 1. And section 2, of course, please, each partner try to contact your NCP, your national contact point. There is a list of NCP on the PRIMA website. You can contact them and to check, verify your eligibility before applying. Because sometimes when the partner is not eligible, it puts at risk the whole project. So it's very important to check this point. And I will finish here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fabrice, for this very thorough explanation on how we work. I hope that the concerns of Pelagia Munu have been met. In case they are not, I'm ready to enlarge an answer later on. Now I'd like to invite our friend Mohamed Vaghi, who will present on how to write a good PRIMA proposal. So please, Mohamed, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot, Octavi. Welcome again, everybody. In this presentation, I'm going to share with you the main sections or parts inside the PRIMA template, the part 2 or the scientific document or the pre-proposal. and also share with you some tips and tricks on how to develop a more competitive proposal. So just as a start, we may recap what Fabrice already mentioned, that in PRIMA, it is a two-stage submission. So we are currently on the first stage. So you are asked to submit your pre-proposal, which is two parts. Part one, which is the admin data. It is an online form that you need to fill on the electronic submission system, plus a PDF, a document to be uploaded. You can go to the PRIMA website, you download the document template for part one, and you fill it and transfer it into a PDF, and then you upload it to the system. The part two, which are going to explain in more details in the next slides, which is the scientific document of your idea or your project, which is the part two or the pre-proposal. Again, it's a template on the PRIMA website in our document Word format. You downloaded it, you fill it, maximum 10 pages, you transfer it into a PDF, and then you upload it to the electronic submission system before the deadline. Then during the second stage, in brief, that, okay, once again, you have the part one, which is the admin data on the online. You need to check the data of the first stage, and you upload as well an updated version of admin of the part one. Also, you will have part two or the full application, maximum 50 pages, and the new one, which is the budget sheet, one template for section one and one template for section two. Just to remind you that for part one and part two, for section one or section two, it is exactly the same template for the two sections. For section one and section two, it is exactly the same. The only difference on the budget sheet, like you have a budget sheet template for section one and another one for section two. So this is very important. So today, because as we are still on the first stage, so we are going to share with you the details of the first stage, but just to get you familiar with the system of the application. For the first stage, you have up to 10 pages. So you have the excellence part and the impact, and we are going to explain each one of these items in the next slides. And as we said, maximum 10 pages. On the second stage, you will have more points to address, 2.2 under the impact, and you will have a new section or a new part, which is the quality and efficiency of the implementation, where you will mention the details of the work packages, the tasks and activities, the whole list of the milestones and deliverables. And the second or fourth part, which is the members of the consortium, the participants in the consortium, and if there is any third party. And final point, which is the ethics and security in case if you have. It is not a problem, but just you need to clarify to the assessor, how are you going to solve this issue? So not to, due to the restriction on the time, so we will just focus today on the pre-proposal or the part two, the pre-proposal or the scientific document for the first stage. Okay, you have the title of the project, and the best source to tailor and to draft your title and acronym is from the code text itself. So our tip for this part is you can brainstorm with your team about like playing a puzzle with the keywords until you have a very representative title of your project that can reflect the challenge, the scope, and the objective of your project just in a title. And we are not expecting like 3-4 lines as a title, but maybe like one line, for instance, or one sentence, single sentence to reflect the title. And as Fabrice already mentioned, you have the table of partners, countries, and the PI. And it's also recommended to keep always the same numbering order of your partners on the electronic submission system on part one, which is the admin data, as well as on the part two for the first stage and for the second stage as well. This is very important. And then now we will talk about the different sections under the pre-proposal that you need to fill. The first section or the first part, which is the excellence, as Fabrice mentioned, it is scored out of 5. And you have in the first stage, you have 4 points to address. 1.1, which is the objectives. Okay. For the objectives, you need to mention the overall or the general objective purpose of your project plus the specific objective of your project. Maybe you are familiar with this term, SMART objective, which is it has to be specific to the scope of your project plus the topic that you are going to address. It has to be measurable objective. It has to be achievable objective that you can achieve within the time frame and available resources. It has to be realistic, not to be overestimated, and it has to be timing, like it has to be achieved within the time frame of your project. You can use bullet points and some abbreviation like SO1 and SO2. So in this case, every time throughout the document, you needed to keep mentioning the full text or the full title of the objective, but just you can, like between two brackets, refer to SO1. So in this case, the assessor will match between this and the predefined SO1, which is specific objective 1, and so on. You need to be precise and specific for the objective. Try to avoid the too ambitious or too open goals, because this is going to be negatively evaluated by the assessor. Not to say like, okay, my project, we are going to eradicate hunger in the Mediterranean countries, because for sure this is not expected from a project with like 2 or 3 million, but maybe this can be like the overall objective, but not your specific project objective. Reflect what is already written already in the code text. That's why we keep always advising to keep reading carefully again and again, you and your research team and your partners, the code text, to make sure that you are fully understand what is PRIMA is looking for, and then you reflect this on your project and on your proposal. Avoid general terms and narrative description, because sometimes we saw some very nice ideas and proposal, but they waste like 3 or 4 pages out of 10 for scientific details and scientific background. So this is very important to be considered. You need as well to specify the geographical coverage or the countries that you are where are you going to implement your project, the main stakeholder engaged to your project, and the target groups, and the main list of deliverables. Imagine that in your project, you will have like 50 deliverables. You need in the first stage to mention all these 50 deliverables. Otherwise, it may be take like 1 page just to mention the deliverables, but you can select like the top 5 or 10 main deliverables and mention this explicitly and explain them for the assessor during the first stage. The second point under the excellence, which is 1.2, the relation to the core topic. You are submitting your project tackling or addressing a specific challenge and the scope for a specific topic. So it's very important to reflect the relation or to match between your project and objectives and the topic that you are going to address. But this is not enough, because it is PRIMA topic is not just like working in a silo or in an isolated islands, but it is under the PRIMA program. So that's why it is very important, and we keep advising all of you not just to read the core text, but return back to the PRIMA strategic research and innovation agenda. Read it so you will as well be familiar with the scope of the PRIMA under agri-food, for instance, or water and so on. So you will align your project not just to the topic, but also at the level of the program. Also, it is very important as well to check other EU and regional relevant policies and strategies, and highlight if your project, and we hope for sure, are going to be aligned with such EU policies or regional policies. So this for sure will add credit to the evaluation of your project. You can use maybe suggested like a tabular form to match between the challenges and the project responses and your project activities. Also highlight the target Mediterranean countries involved in your project and its demand. Like for instance, if a certain country in Mediterranean region suffering from water scarcity. So highlight this. So in this case, you will highlight to the assessor that your project will be of an added value or very important to those specific countries. Refer to any significant plans undertaken at a national or regional or global level. That's why we keep mentioning the SDGs and EU policies or UFM regional strategies and so on. This third part under the excellence, which is 1.3, it has 2 parts, subparts. First one, which is the concept, you will present the overall concept or the idea, the main ideas underpinning your project. Present the partners' knowledge and the rules and the interdisciplinary between partners. And this is very important and crucial, because as we said, especially for an innovation action topics, we are talking about a high TRL. So the engagement of different stakeholders like the private sector, SMEs, companies, research organizations, public authorities, all of these, for sure, each one of them will have a specific rule and the engagement in the project. So this is very important to be reflected on the document. Measure as well any public or societal or stakeholder engagement. Describe and position your project on the spectrum, like from idea to application, or from lab to market, or from farm to table. And this is lead to the second point about define the starting TRL of the technologies that you are going to use, and the final TRL that you are going to achieve throughout your project life cycle. So it is very important, like maybe to have like a table or whatever. So you mention the initial starting TRL and the final TRL. So the assessor will evaluate the advancement in the technology and scientific advancement that you are going to achieve during your project. Also, it is very important to synergize and to show the complementarity with other regional or national or international research and innovation activities or other projects in the region, which is linked to or similar to your project. The second part under the 1.3, which is the applied methodology or the approach that you are going to apply in order to translate objectives into tangible results at the end. So here we are not asking you to describe the details of the activities and the steps, but what is really more important is the skeleton of your project and the work packages structure and the logic behind this structure and the interrelation between different work packages and main actions and activities. This is very important because you are all for sure top-notch scientists. So maybe you will spend like more time for and many pages for describing the details of the activities. Maybe you are going to waste valuable pages in this case. That's why we are asking you just to present the logic behind the structure, the main skeleton or the framework, the different work packages and main task and its relation. Present as well the technology that you are going to apply and it is rationale why you selected those technologies, not any other one. Differentiate as well the activities, if it is like a research activities or it's for demonstration, piloting, or for market replication. Analyze as well and refer to the gender dimensions and gender balance and at the level of the consortium, like how many percentage of males and females, for instance, in your PIs and project management and research teams, as well as at the level of the target groups and the final beneficiaries. The last point under the first section, which is the excellence, which is 1.4, the ambition. You need to mention the novelty of the idea and the added value of your project. Mention as well the innovation potential, like if you are going to introduce new products or open new market or some groundbreaking services, for instance, or business or organizational models. Why you are going to advance these technologies, so you need maybe to compare between the products or the solution that you are going to develop and the others already other alternatives already exist in the market, like you are going to decrease the cost or increase the efficiency or decrease the loss and so on. In brief, you need as well to nature and size the tackled market, and you can use some references, figures, tables, and charts when appropriate for you. The second section for the pre-proposal, which is the impact, there's only one single point under it, which is 2.1, the expected impact of your product. So you need to classify this impact into social impact, economic, environmental impact, political impact, or scientific or technological advancement. You need to be very clear and specific to the project and to the objective, as well as to the topic that you are going to address, as well as to the PRIMA impact as a program. So try to avoid general terms. Quantified indicators or measurable indicators. It's very important that when you say, okay, I'm going to organize workshops or develop some products or some solutions, it's very important to quantify this. Like, okay, we are going to have like 4 workshops in those countries. We will have 2 products, we will have 1 platform, and so on. So it's very important to have a KPI, put a targets or values for them, mention how you are going to verify or measure these KPIs, identify as well the target groups, the beneficiaries, and how you are going to approach them, and geographical coverage. Cross-cutting as well issues is very important to be considered if this is the nature of your projects, like ICT revolution or gender issues or digitalization. As you can see here on the previous point, we keep highlighting the importance of the strategic research innovation agenda. Also, you need to refer to the enhancement in the innovation capacity, like you are going to create new market opportunities or strengthening the competitiveness of the Mediterranean products or starting new startups, as well as you are going to bring some other important benefits for the society. I think this is my last slide. Okay, just some final remarks or comments or recommendations for all of you. First of all, it is 2 sections. Excellence and the impact, or 2 parts in the pre-proposal, excellence and the impact. So with equal score, each one of them are going to score out of 5. equal threshold, as Fabrice mentioned in the previous presentation. So please pay equal attention to each section, because we used to see that sometimes they can, like some consortia may use like 9.5 pages for the excellence and just a half a page for the impact. So maybe you are going to score like 5 out of 5 for the excellence, but you will score very low under the impact. So in this case, it's very important to consider, not to say that it has to be like 5 pages, because also you need to consider that under the excellence, you have 4 points to address, while under the impact, you have only 1 point to address. So, but it has to be like balanced or ratio, like maybe 7:3 or 8:2, whatever, but it has to be logic. It's only 10 pages, so use it wisely. Don't waste your space in the pre-proposal for mentioning the details of the activities and so on, but instead focus on the applied methodology, applied technologies, main actions, the whole work packages structure, the main outputs, outcomes, and the added value of your project. Quantify as much as you can the outputs, the activities, deliverables, and the KPIs. Present in brief as well dissemination, communication, and exploitation plan. Mention as well the IPR management and activities to different stakeholders. Show the interdisciplinary and the rules of your partners in your consortium, like the rule of private sector, rule of SMEs, and so on. Show the engagement of the stakeholders and the end user and the public, and how you are going to approach them. Networking and synergize with other national or regional or global initiatives or action or strategies. Use as well some references and figures, and you can invent some diagrams that can summarize to the assessor the main idea behind your project. And as Fabrice mentioned, we keep insisting that for all of you, for section 1 or section 2, please contact your NCP, especially if you are a section 2, to check that you are eligible to participate. Everything is clear, and if you have any answer, please feel free to approach us at any time. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Mohammed. I think that this was very clear. I hope that this helped many of potential applicants to understand really how it works. And I think it may be very useful for many of you. Let me now turn to partnering. And in fact, I've seen that many of you have used the chat to use that partnering platform, so that's very good. But Ali will give you more on this, and specifically the tools that we have for partnering. So Ali, over to you.
Thank you, Octavi. Hello again. So I think this is very important for all the participants, and I think we received questions, how we can find the partner. Is there any tools available to find the winning consortium? I think this is a challenging also, before the challenges of the topics, how we can construct a winning consortium, the good partner of having, and this is maximize your chance of having a successful proposal. So in the outline of this proposal, I'm going to start first by some tips and tricks. I think this is very useful. Then I will move to the main steps. And after that, I will give you some partnering tool. I think they will be very useful for you. So let's start by the tips and tricks. Okay, so I think the first tip that we have to start on time. When is at the start of time? Now I think you have more than 2 weeks, so the course will be launched maybe in 2 weeks, so you have time. So please, you can start from now looking for your good partners. You have to put in mind that all of a competition from a rival consortium that might hijack your perfect partners. So you have to start from now, because otherwise maybe you have a good partner that will be maybe taken by other consortium. The third one, we have to have in board the brightest mind with your field of topics. I think this is very, very important if you are working on water. So we have to think about the brightest mind within your field of topics. So I think this is the first tip, is to start on time. The second one is the characteristics of the consortium. And here I presented 4 main characteristics of winning consortium: the excellence, The second one is the multidisciplinarity. The third one is the geographic balance. And the fourth is the complementarity. So for the excellence, as I said, you have to identify your key opinion leaders. This is very, very important. When you start your proposal, maybe you have some ideas, start by looking to these key opinion leaders. It can be 4, 3, 4, 5, it depends. So I think this is what we need in the excellence. But sometimes if you are working in one topic, so it's easy to have your key opinion leader. Otherwise, you have, I think, with the Scopies, there is, the Scopies can deliver a tool that can identify your key opinion leaders. So I think this is related to the excellence. The second one, which is the multidisciplinarity. And as you said this morning we said that we have topics that deals with different disciplines. So you have to go beyond one discipline, and you have to combine different partners from various disciplines. The third one, which is also very important, is the geographic distribution. So we have to look to different partners around the Mediterranean. So from the north and the south, you have to have a balance from north and south, but also you have to have a balance between profit and non-profit. As I said, Mohammed, for the mainly the private sector, SMEs, association, and whatever. So we have to think about this balance between the profit and the non-profit. The last and not least, the complementarity. This is very important. You have to think about how we can have the good partner. Each partner should have different skills, and in order to avoid any redundancy. So this is very important, to have this complementarity and to avoid what we call it in general, this dressing or window partners. Second. So what are the main steps? The first step, when you have no partners, you have to start by, as I said, the first core consortium, the 3-4 persons, what we call the key opinion leaders. And with them, you have to draft the scope. You have to draft the scope, the main objectives of the call, and the rough outline of the project. So you cannot start drafting the proposal with 20 or more parties. It's impossible. So start drafting the rough outline of the proposal by these 3 or 4 partners. I think this is what we call it in general. The first concept paper is the one page, 2 pages, to demonstrate that this is your objectives and this is the outline of your proposal. Then once you prepare this 1 or 2 pages, then you have to think to include other partners. You have to bring other partners. So how you can bring the other partners? First, you have to look to the consortium from your network. Start from your network. Certainly, you already have networks in the Mediterranean, and then you have your key opinion leader, the core of the consortium. They already have their network. So start by building the rest of the consortium from your network and the network of the core consortium. But if it is not easy and you need other partner, other profiles, you can use the partnering tool. I think the partnering tool, they're very important, and you can find very good partners. So let's see what are the main and the good partnering tool that I advise to you to select and to search your partner. Next, please. So, of course, we will start by PRIMA, the first one. Next, please. So the first partnering tool is the PRIMA partnering tool. So I advise you, we have a huge database of partners since 18, 19, and 20. So what you do, you can post a partnership request. So as you can see in the screen, you can put your name, you can put last name or password, you can post your request. But also you can search in the engine to view the requested posted by others. So below you can see the search partner requests. So you can filter by the country if you like to have one partner from Spain, you can select by here the filter by country. You have also the organization type. If you are looking to an association, you can also filter by the organization type. You are up to the name of organization, but also you can put the keywords. If you are looking for hydrogeology, or for example, a farming system, someone is working in the adaptation of farming system. So you just put the keywords, and then you can search. You can search by thematic area. Here you can see the management of water, farming system, agri-food value chain, and the water ecosystem food nexus. This is, I think, I advise you to visit this partnering tool. It is available on our website, and we have a huge database, and you can either post your partnership or you can search for other partners. The second tool, we will go to the Europe. So here, I think the first tool, which is a very good tool also, is the funding and tender portal. This is a free platform for participant and the expert in finding programs and tender. It's managed by the European Commission and other European bodies. So here you can find the partner among what has been done before, the past European projects. You can filter also here the same by the keywords, but or the organization type, also by the country. I think this is also a good tool that can help you to find your very good partner. Second one is the CORDIS. I think you maybe know this. CORDIS, this is the European Commission primary source of results from the funded project by European Union from the FP1 until the H2020, and even until the last call of Green Deal. So here, which is very important for the CORDIS, that you can find a lot of information, mainly the fact sheets of the project, some reports, deliverable. You can have also the link to the publication. If someone has already published a work, you can have this link, and I think you can check if this publication is very close to what you are looking. And I think this CORDIS is a very, very important tool, and you can find your appropriate partner. The second one is the Enterprise Europe Network. This is, I think, is a little bit different because here is an online database of business opportunities. This is a network active in more than 60 countries worldwide. And here you can find more than 600 member organizations. You can find Chamber of Commerce, Technology Pools, Innovation Support Organization. You can have also academic research institutions and universities, and you can also find regional development organization. So here, I think it's very important if you are looking for a business opportunity for SMEs or enterprise. I think this is the good tool that allow you to find your good partners. Second. Next, please. So if it is not easy to find using the partner tool, we have another opportunity to contact the NCPs. So we, in PRIMA, we have the national contact points. So each year we update them. I think you have to look to the updated national contact points for each of this year. And you can contact directly the NCP if you are looking, for instance, a partner from Algeria. So you can find the name of the NCP and his or her address email. So you can contact the NCP, and I think they can help you to find your appropriate partner. So besides the PRIMA NCPs, next please, you have also the NCPs of H2020 and Horizon Europe. Here I think there's a huge, the number of NCP are, the number is great, so you can find a lot of NCPs in different disciplines. So they can help you if you are looking from not only from Europe, but also in many non-Europe and non-associated countries. So I think this is also the NCP of H2020 Horizon Europe can also help you if you are looking for a specific profile and an appropriate partner for your proposal. Thank you so much. I think that's all for my side, and I wish you all the best. And please start from now. You have 2 weeks. Start from now looking to your a good partner, and having a winning proposal should also is linked to a successful and a strong consortium around the corresponding topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ali. I hope that this helped you to find partners for your proposals. And now let's move to our financial manager, Pauel, who will tell you a few tips on how to prepare a good budget for a PRIMA proposal. So over to you, Pau.
Thank you, Octavi. Good afternoon to all of you. The idea of my presentation is to give an overview which are the main rules that apply to PRIMA calls in the financial issues. And the last part, I will give you how PRIMA will pay to the participants and in how do we request the reports. And next, please. Next. So we'll see which are the eligible costs that you can submit once you prepare the proposal. On the other side, which is an eligible cost. The third part of the presentation will be the concept of third parties, if they are allowed and what kind of third parties you can introduce in your consortium. And the last part, which will be the report and payment request. Next, please. So first of all, and before going into detail to what is an eligible cost, and as Octavi and my colleagues have already mentioned, I will explain the Section 1 rules, okay? Section 1 rules because PRIMA calls on Section 2 follows the national rules of each country, okay? The second important thing is that, and Octavi has already mentioned, we stick to H2020 rules. Even though that the call is launched in 2021 and Horizon Europe has already started, we stick to H2020 rules, okay? Okay, eligible cost. We have 5 categories that you can allocate your cost. The first one, and later I will explain one by one, is the direct personal cost. The second one is the direct cost of subcontracting. The third one is direct cost of providing financial support to third parties. The fourth one, other direct costs, and the last one, indirect costs. So here, the main difference that you should know is what is a direct cost and what is an indirect cost. The direct cost is all the costs that are directly linked to the action, okay? And they can only be attributed to it. And the direct cost is the other way around. It's cost not directly linked to the action and cannot be attributed to it. For instance, indirect cost is the phone cost, and a direct cost is the person who works on the action. Next, please. So there are 3 types of conditions or type of costs that you can use when you prepare when to justify the cost. The first category, which is the most common one, is the actual cost, which basically they have to be according to the Annex 1. They must fulfill all the national law and the laws of your organization. They must be reasonable and justified, and they must be justified during the period of the action, okay, which is set out in the Article 3. The second option that you can use is the unit cost, which is the number of actual units must comply with the following conditions, okay? They must be actually used or produced in the period of the action. They must be necessarily identified and verifiable, and be calculated as follow, using the formula number of actual units per amount per unit. And the third category, or the third option that you can use to justify the eligible costs, are the flat rates, that we use it to calculate the indirect costs, which is a flat rate of 25% of the total eligible direct costs. We will see through an example how to calculate them. Next, please. So direct personal cost, this is the most important cost on PRIMA actions. In average, it represents approximately between 60 and 70% of the total budget, okay? If we see the data of the last 3 years. So the standard case is the persons who are hired by the beneficiary via an employment contract. Okay, this cost includes the pays, the payroll, plus the social security contributions paid by the organization. But you can use other cases under this category, which are natural persons who are hired directly via a contract if they fulfill these three conditions. They have a hierarchical dependence with the beneficiary, the result belongs to the beneficiary, and the costs are similar that those employees would be unemployed by the institution. And a third option could be employees of a third party seconded to the beneficiary. Next, please. So how do we calculate them? So we use this formula, which is hour works per hourly rate, okay? The hour works must be recorded in time record. This is very important. So all the people who work on the action must record the time allocated to each task. And these time records must be signed by the person plus his or her supervisor. And the hourly rate, okay? In the next slide, we will see how to calculate the hourly rate. So how to determine the hourly rate? As a general cost, you use the actual cost, which is defined in the model grant agreement. But you can also use unit cost, okay? If your institution works in unit cost, you can use this accounting practice that is being used in your organization. Or the third option as unit cost is if you are an SME owner without a salary, then H2020 rules states that you must fix an hourly rate that you will find it in the annex of the grant agreement to calculate the cost for this SME owner. Okay, next, please. So the hourly rate, it's an easy calculation between personal cost on the denominator and Wahid, please, can you? No, back, please. Back, thank you. And in the denominator, the productive hours. So the personal cost includes the salaries, the social security contribution paid by the organization, and other tax and costs that may arise from your national law or the employment contract. The productive hours are the number of hours that an employee can work on the organization according to its labor agreement. And if it's not clear or the labor agreement is not well defined, you can use three different options that are described here. And the standard one is 1,720 hours per year. So then you can get the hourly rate. Next, please. When you will report the direct personal cost, you should take in consideration the annual hourly rate has to be calculated once the financial year is closed, okay? So following this example, that this reporting period, which starts the 1st of October 2019 and ends the 31 March 2021, the hourly rate of 19 and 20 is for each year. But the hourly rate from 2021, the first 3 months, you must use the hourly rate of the year before. In this case, the 2020. This is very important when you calculate your budget. Next, please. The second category of eligible costs are the direct costs of subcontracting. Subcontracting is allowed in PRIMA actions. You must declare them in actual cost. And secondly, they must be described in the Annex 1, which is the full proposal of 50 pages, okay? The other direct cost is the third category of eligible costs, and the most common ones is the travel cost to attend to the meetings, such as kickoff meetings, meetings of among all the members of the consortium. The equipment, okay, is it allowed to buy assets for the action? But you can only account and report the depreciation costs according to the use of the asset during the action, okay? And you must use this formula. You have to calculate the acquisition cost multiplied by the annual depreciation according to the national law, multiply for the use of the action, and multiply for the days that you use this asset in the action, okay? Also, cost of renting and leasing are allowed. And also in other direct costs, there are the goods and services that might be purchased during the action. It's not necessary to detail them in the Annex 1. Next, please. The fourth category and the last one is indirect cost. So we have said that it's a flat rate of 25% of the eligible direct cost, from which are excluded the cost of subcontracting. So in this example, we will see how we can calculate them. So this is a public university, which has a 100,000 personal cost, 20,000 for subcontracting, and 10,000 for other direct costs. So the total eligible direct cost is 1,030,000, the sum of the three categories. But when we calculate the eligible indirect costs, we only consider personal costs and other direct costs. That's why the eligible indirect cost is 27,500 euros. So if we sum the two amounts, the total eligible cost for this partner would be 1,057,500 euros. Okay, next, please. So we have seen all the eligible costs. But we have ineligible costs. There are costs that can be rejected if you submit when you report to us, such as doubtful debts, currency exchange losses. Here I remind you that PRIMA always pays in euros. So if your currency suffers exchange variations during the action, you cannot justify them. Reckless expenditure or the deductible VAT, okay? All the costs incurred before the start of the action are not eligible. All the costs must be justified since the first day of the action. Next, please. Okay. As my colleague Fabrice has explained, in the budget, when you submit in stage 1, you will provide us an amount. But on stage 2, you should detail us, among all the categories, the budget per partner and per each category. This budget is a budget, okay? And this budget can be changed during the action, okay? We don't like to do a lot of changes during the action, but if need be, there are some changes that can be done during the action. In any case, if you are selected for funding, we will explain you how is the procedure and how are the amendments, if need be, in case you apply for it, okay? Next, please. This is how the budget looks like. So on the top, you see all the categories which I have explained for all the eligible direct costs and indirect costs. On the left side, you introduce the partner, and if need be, the third party link it to the partner, okay? Here it's important that if you have a linked third party, it deserves a line for its own budget, okay? And here I will also to point out the importance of the reimbursement rate, okay? So as most of our calls are e-action, if you are working in a profit organization, the maximum reimbursement rate is 70%. Okay, so please, once you prepare the budget, take in consideration the percentage that you can apply for the reimbursement, okay, of all your costs. Next, please. So third parties are allowed in PRIMA calls. So the concept of third party, it's a legal entity which carries out work of the action, but they don't sign the grant agreement, okay? And we have two types of third parties. The first one are the third parties directly carrying out part of the work, and they must be described and included in the Annex 1, which is the description of the action, the full document. And the second category is the other third parties providing resources, goods, to services to the beneficiaries which are already in the partnership. And in the next slide, you see the articles which apply in the both categories. On the left side, You see the ones who carry out part of the work, which have subcontractors and linked third parties, and the article. And on the right side, the providing resources, which are contracts or use of in-kind contributions. Okay. Next, please. Here is a chart where you can see to define and which is the criteria to identify if you are speaking about a linked third party or a contractor, and which are the characteristics that apply to each category. For instance, contractor, that as we have already mentioned, they don't work on the action and they provide resources and services, and what is eligible is the price, okay? And the Article 10, which is the one it's described in the Model Grant Agreement, and the best value for money to avoid conflict of interest, okay? Next, please. The last slide, it's how PRIMA pays and report and how to be submitted to PRIMA, okay? So once the GA, the grant agreement is signed, PRIMA can pay up to 30 days the first installment, which is a 60% as a pre-financing payment, okay? I remind you that PRIMA only pays to the coordinator, and the coordinator splits the payment among the partners according to the consortium agreement that they already been signed by all of them, okay? My colleague Julia will later explain how the grant agreement works. The first report will be at the midterm of the action, and it could be 1.5 years, 2 years, depends on how long it will take your action. And you should submit a periodic report, a technical report, and a financial report. So the partners and the coordinator must submit this information, and this period takes approx 3 months to submit and to check and to prove all the information is valid. Once we approve, PRIMA can pay up to 30% of the total grant amount, and at the end of the action, you report a final report, a technical report, and again, a financial report. And if need be, and if all the costs are eligible, we can pay the 10%, which is remaining of the payment of the balance of the total grant amount. So finally, and next, please, I just recommend to keep calm and follow the rules, and good luck for your applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pau. I hope that with the budget after Pau's presentation, you have a clear view on how to present it. And let's now move to the last presentation, which is on the PRIMA grant agreement presented by our legal expert, Julia Revés. Julia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Octavi. Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for watching us. I'm Julia Revés, the legal officer of PRIMA. And as Octavi said, I will close the Infoday talking about our cost 2021 from a legal perspective, and especially talking about the grant agreement. I see that we are running out of time, and we had a very intense morning with a lot of information. So I promise you that I will be very brief. I will not do a deep analysis of the grant agreement. I will just provide you the information that you need to know now in your current stage, that you're attending the Infoday and you are already thinking about the content of the call. You are starting to think on how to build a strong consortium or to write a good proposal. So I will basically explain you the main ideas of the grant agreement and the procedure that we will follow to sign it. We can start to display, please, the presentation. Everything that I will explain to you will sound also very familiar for those who have participated before on the H2020 program. And before starting, allow me to do one quick clarification. Everything that I will explain to you is related to section 1. As it has been explained before, our calls are organized through 2 sections. In section 1, PRIMA, we act as a kind of funding agency on behalf of the European Commission, and we fund you and we sign the grant agreements with you. In section 2, your national funding agencies will fund you and you will sign the grant agreement with them. In any case, the fundamentals of the grant agreement are common both for section 1 and 2. So everything that I will explain to you will be useful regardless to what section you submit your proposal. First of all, the grant agreement is the contract that will be signed between you as a partner or coordinator of a consortium with a project selected for funding in a PRIMA call and us. And also, if we can go to the next one, please, is also the legal instrument that will allow PRIMA to ensure that your project, that your action is implemented in the way that we have agreed. As important is the action as the way to achieve the action. And also, the grant agreement will ensure that you will perform your project in accordance with the applicable law. Next, please. Next year, I think that Pau could borrow me his last slide, the keep calm and follow the rules, because also the grant agreement will be the legal instrument that will allow PRIMA to face those situations in which a consortium breaches the rules and don't follow the conditions established on the contract. No need to read it now. You can check later on the chapter 6 of our model grant agreement, which are the consequences in case a consortium does not follow and breach all the rules established on the contract. Next, please. The main parts of the GA. The most important part of the GA is obviously your project, your full proposal. It will be the Annex 1 of the grant agreement. The same for the Annex 2, which will be your budget, the budget that you have submitted on the second stage. And then we have the main part, the grant agreement itself, with its 58 articles that will be signed only between the coordinator and PRIMA. The rest of the partners and possible linked third parties will sign the Annex 3, which is the accession form. Next, please. When we will sign the grant agreement? Once the evaluation process performed by independent experts is finished, they select certain projects and a ranking list is submitted to our Board of Trustees, the PRIMA Board of Trustees. If our Board of Trustees approves it, then we have the ranking list and all our project officers will contact you to give you the good news. And myself, I will contact you as well to start the procedure to sign the grant agreement. Now, I seize this moment to answer one of the questions that I saw on the question box. And first of all, I want to clarify that although we are part of the H2020 program, we don't use the EU participant portal, now called Funding and Tenders Portal. We will use emails or phone calls to exchange all the information and documentation. And we have a very clear workflow that makes very easy to know what to do in each step. Now I'm displaying the workflow that we are using currently with the calls 2020. And you can see that it's quite a strict workflow in terms of time, but you should be aware that we need to fulfill the H2020 time to grant term. And this is maximum 8 months from the call closure until the signature of the grant agreement. Also, you can see here that we only provide to you 2 months to sign the consortium agreement. And I will explain you now what is the consortium agreement, but just to do this suggestion to you all, that if you are invited to submit a full proposal in the stage 2, please be aware that if your project is finally and hopefully selected for funding, you will have to sign this consortium agreement within 2 months. And next, please, what is the consortium agreement? It's the contract that shall be signed among the partners of the consortium, among themselves, to set the right and obligation. And it's a document in which PRIMA is not involved. And it's a contract that will complement the grant agreement and cannot contain any provision against the grant agreement. Next, please. Amendments. Now you are attending the Infoday and you're thinking that you will submit in the next few months the full proposal, and next year, once you will start the project, you need to modify something. Well, we expect from you that you submit proposals that will not need to be changed in the future. However, if you are in a very justified case, we can exceptionally, and I want to remark exceptionally, that we can modify the contract through an amendment. And not only has to be justified and is not only exceptional, but also we need to take in consideration that the modification that we will introduce in the contract, in the GA or in your project, cannot challenge the reasons that the experts identify and use to select your project as deserve for funding, because this could break the principle of equal treatment of applicants. Next, please. Pau explained before about the possibility that third parties or subcontractors can implement part of the action. And yes, as he said, you can do it. You can include them on the performing of the project, but please be aware, essentially, that you, while selecting these entities, you need to avoid conflict of interest and ensure best value for money on the selection of the third party or subcontractor, and especially that they may cover only a limited and non-essential part of the action. Next. And yeah, this is my final slide. We use the H2020 template adapted to our organization, and you can check online on our website the model grant agreement. And that's all. Thank you very much. I do hope that I will contact you in less than a year to start the procedure to sign the grant agreement, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia, for that last and short presentation. I hope that it helped you. Let me now, well, first of all, I'd like to answer a couple of questions that have not been answered. So far, I think that all the others have been answered on writing, and I'll go into that one, well, in fact, two of them that still deserve an answer. And the question is, can partners be added to the proposal on the second stage in order to improve the response to the call's objectives? The answer is no. The guidelines say clearly that proposals should not change in terms of partners, in terms of budget, in terms of the ideas from stage 1 to stage 2, but, and this but has to be taken very carefully. Last year, and well, in the first 3 years of PRIMA, we've been witnessing that some countries for Section 2, I'm speaking only for Section 2. So Section 1, nothing changes, and the proposal should be stable from stage 1 to stage 2. Now, for Section 2, in which the funding, as you know, comes from the national funding agencies, we realize that some funding agencies did not have enough partners in the final list, so they didn't use their funding, and all this funding was lost. So in a region in which we need a lot of resources for research and innovation, this funding was lost. So we thought about a pilot in which we had a country volunteered to suggesting all proposals that were going to stage 2 to be able to include a partner from that country so that this country could invest and use these funds invest these funds for research and innovation. So some proposals were invited to add a new partner from this underspending country. And in fact, and of course, the proposal was evaluated with this additional partner. So, and the evaluators were very keen on looking at the proposal, taking into account that the main idea didn't change and that this partner just added value, but not changed the direction of the proposal. This is what we are intending to do again this year. We need the green light of the European Commission to go down this road, but in principle, we'll again use this formula for the next year, the current year. So you will know this. In the meantime, between stage 1 and stage 2, for those proposals in section 2, which will go from stage 1 and stage 2. At that time, we'll have an answer from the European Commission, and you will receive indications from our side on how to proceed. I have still 2 questions, minor question. One, this is whether the chat text can be shared, can be used by you all. In fact, we've been very happy to see that the chat text has been used for many of you to do networking. This chat text will be displayed in the website in the next coming days, so you'll have access to all the text. Finally, on the question on Pelagia Monu, who said that where she was asking on the evaluation and assessment of the proposals. You've seen the explanation by Fabrice. I hope that it answers all your potential concerns. Let me tell you that I think, well, I'm sure that we have a very robust evaluation system that can be equated to any good international evaluation system. And I am very sure that it meets all the standards and that so far we didn't have any problem with the evaluation. This is for me the time to close this session, today's meeting. I hope that the Infoday has been fruitful and useful for you all. Let me tell you that you've been very many keeping the attention for these 3 hours and a half. I like to say that in spite of COVID, the Infoday has worked pretty well. In fact, I think we've been able to answer most of the questions, and your attendance proved that it has been interesting for many of you. Let me use this opportunity to thank the UFM for hosting us in their headquarters. Thank all the panelists for their contributions, which I appreciate very much. Thank all the staff of PRIMA, because they've been, if we are here and you've been allowed to follow this for 3.5 hours, it's thanks to all the efforts they've been doing, and wishing you a good participation, application, and we hope that the indications that you have received today have been useful to you all. Wishing you a very successful PRIMA call application. I'm saying you goodbye and see you next time. Bye-bye.